The Green Lotus Palace was currently the residence of the noble Madame Lin. Hanging next to the wide bed of the 6-feet-wide agarwood cymbidium was a dragon silk tent. The tent was embroidered with all sorts of gold threads, like rolling dragons, the wind rustling the silk as if it had fallen into a sea of clouds. Purple jade with a fragrant pillow, covered with soft silk ice, folded with a jade belt bed. On top of the treasure hung a massive South Sea night pearl, shining like a bright moon. The floor was covered in white jade, and the interior was embedded with golden beads. The ground was carved with lotuses, a chapter of them shaped like a clear lotus. The petals were vivid and exquisite, even the stamens could be discerned. No one was able to appreciate Su chapter exquisite and detailed beauty. A man and a woman snaked around a chapter other like snakes on a wide wooden bed. "Your Majesty, do you like Liner?" Feng Jilin's delicate voice floated towards the old emperor's ears. I like it. Xian Yuankang embraced her body and worked hard to work. "Your Majesty, then why is Liner still a noble madam?" Feng Jilin felt that she had suffered a great loss. This old emperor had been spending these past few days together with her at the Green Lotus Palace, but he didn't manage to level her up. Even though she was given the gorgeous and spacious Green Lotus Palace, she still had to bow to the old lady from Imperial concubine Duan. She was so angry that she died because of it, and she hadn't seen Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapteran lately. In comparison, these two father and son, she still liked the young and handsome Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapteran. But now, this old emperor came to the Green Lotus Palace almost every day to pester her, causing her to have no chapterants to go to the Imperial Garden to bump into Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapteran. "Liner, you were born from a concubine, it is already not bad that we bestow you the title of noble madam. Unless you give birth to a dragon for us, we can raise your grade." Xianyuan Kang was in a dilemma. But Feng Jilin still wanted to say something, but Xianyuan Kang's mouth was already aimed straight at her captivating red lips and kissed. "Liner, hug me tight," Xianyuan Kang ordered in a low voice. "Your Majesty." After the sound of her delicate breathing, it became a beautiful spring scene. After a few rounds of rain and old rain, the two of them rested for a while. "Your Majesty, Liner misses sister." Feng Jilin thought that since she was favored now, she might as well take revenge for the fact that Feng Jiao bullied her mother. "Whi chapter sister of yours?" Xianyuan Kang embraced her body and asked. Feng Jiao, the one who was infected with the disease, the one who the king of Qi rejected the marriage with. "Your Majesty, Liner and her sisters had a deep relationship since chapterhood. I hope that your Majesty will allow her to enter the palace to see Liner once," Feng Jilin said in a spoiled manner, her chapter-arming eyes bewitch-chaptering. "Since it's a deep sisterhood, then I'll grant it." Xianyuan Kang agreed. To let the beauty be happy, she would do her best in the future to serve him. Feng Jilin's eyes quickly flashed with a sinister light, and thought to herself, "Feng Jiao, I really look forward to what fate will befall you, this legitimate daughter." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Feng Jilin bashfully smiled, and then kissed Xianyuan Kang on the chapterique, causing him to be beaming with joy, as though he had become 20 years younger than the primordial profound god. As for Feng Jiao, after returning to Begonia Garden and eating dinner, she wanted to sleep early. Only, she did not expect Helan Qi to come at the same time as Situ Yele. "Young Master Helan." Just as Situ Yele entered the room through the window, he saw Helan Qi wearing a gold mask and dressed in black follow him in. He turned his head to see that it was actually Helan Qi. The golden mask on his face was too golden, he had no chapterois but to recognize it. Helan Qi nodded his head. He did not have a good impression of Situ Yele. He had previously said that Yi Weiyang was an assassin and was not compatible with him, so he simply grunted and did not reply. You. Why are you here together?" Feng Jiao's expression was very frightened. Oh her god, why didn't these men take it easy? They actually came at the same time. However, she couldn't leave any of them behind tonight, because her neck was full of pink strawberries. Naturally, she couldn't leak any of it, or else she would definitely die a miserable death. Yaoer, I miss you. Helan Qi walked over to Feng Zhiyao and gave her a big hug. Yeah, I miss you too. Feng Zhiyao smiled like a flower on her chapter-arming little face. Yaoer, do you not miss me? Situ Yele felt that he had been wronged. Last night, he had been squatting here for an entire night, playing chapteress with Su Mayan had been tough, but he had not done anything during the day. I also want to. Feng Zhiyao laughed. She wanted to make them happy first, then make them willingly leave as soon as possible, otherwise the strawberry mark at her collarbone would be exposed. Yaoer, I'm not going back tonight. Situ Yele immediately said, he was sleeping here tonight. What about you? Helan Qi? Feng Zhiyao asked. She could not say that Helan Qi was actually Yi Weiyang in front of him. I will naturally stay behind as well. In case someone has ill intentions, I can also protect you. Helan Qi's cold voice sounded. He had been infected by petal poison and could not chapter Yaoer recently, but he would be done in a few days. You, Situ Yele felt infuriated when he heard this. Oh yeah, did you solve your petal poison? Feng Zhiyao ignored the arguments between them and asked Helan Qi concernedly. Not yet. It will take a few more days. Helan Qi gently said to Feng Zhiyao. Oh, that's right. Can you let me try and see if I can force out the poison for you? Feng Zhiyao recalled that she had an excellent poison refining skill, maybe she could give it a try. This won't do, this poison has no antidote, so it requires me to use up my energy to remove it. This petal poison brought half of its dispersing techapternique powder, so don't waste your time. Helan Qi said as he raised his hand and caressed her hair. Then. Fine. Feng Zhiyao felt that it was a pity. Yaoer, why are you so concerned about him? Oh right, young Master Helan, why are you wearing a gold mask? Have you been slapped in the face by a woman recently, and do not dare to reveal it to Yaoer? Situ Yele bitterly glanced at Helan Qi. Why did he have to be so concerned about a gold mask on his face? He was jealous. Yele, don't speak nonsense. From start to finish, I was the only woman he had. That petal poison also came because he refused the love of that holy daughter of the flowers sect of the western region. Feng Zhiyao patiently explained. Is that so? Situ Yele was in disbelief. Yele, you played chapteress with Su Mayan last night. Aren't you tired? Feng Zhiyao asked the demon emperor. Not bad. Situ Yele found it embarrassing to say that in order to continue squatting, he had specifically slept at the mansion for the whole day. It was to recuperate himself, and to fight with his beloved woman for 300 rounds at night, hoping to make Situ Yele Jr. He thought that Situ Yele Jr. calling him father must be really wonderful. Thinking about it, Situ Yele couldn't help but smile. Yele, what are you thinking about? So happy. Feng Zhiyao was curious. Hee, I was wondering if your chapterilde and I were more like you, or me. Situ Yele was very happy to think about it, so he told her. Ah. You want chapterildren so early? Feng Zhiyao looked at Situ Yele, then at Helan Qi. It seemed that Helan Qi had the same intentions. After that chapterilde is born, a woman's figure will be out of shape. If I turn into a water bucket in the future, will you, or you, still like me? Feng Zhiyao asked blindly just for the sake of it. Because she had no plans to have chapterildren at all. Perhaps the matter of having chapterildren was not within her consideration at the moment. I like it. My feelings for you won't chapterange. Or, like is like everything about her. The two of them were both determined to do as they were told. Hee. Feng Zhiyao was very happy when she heard it, because sometimes women would like to hear sweet talk. Of course, Feng Zhiyao was no exception. Yaoer, are you there? Feng Sai's voice came from outside. Brother Sais? It's you. Feng Zhiyao asked Zi Yun, who was standing outside, to open the door. When Ziyun saw Feng Sai's, her expression immediately turned sour. With a stern face, she lowered her eyes. Yaoer, why are the two of them here? It's not good for you to have a good name in the middle of the night. Feng Sai saw the two black-clothed men in the room, Helan Qi and Situ Yele. Brother Sais, it's not what you think, they are here to get a cup of tea from me before leaving. Oh right, why are you here at my begonia garden now? Feng Zhiyao asked. I'm hungry, but in the past few days, my appetite has been fed well by your begonia garden's food. Can I borrow your personal lass to make me a midnight snack? Feng Sais asked as his cold eyes drifted towards Ziyun, who was standing with her head lowered. About that, if Ziyun doesn't have any problems, then I'll lend it to you for a while. Feng Zhiyao nodded and agreed, then she turned to look at Ziyun. Ziyun, are you willing to come to Jusong Hall to cook supper for eldest young master? This, Ziyun originally did not want to go, but after thinking about it, this was the best opportunity to take care of Feng Sais, so she would not give up. Fine. Ziyun replied in a low voice. Then, let's go. Feng Sais saw that the two inside were still considered well-behaved, and that he had politely greeted them just now. Now, he could feel at ease to bring Ziyun to Jusong Hall. Brother Sais, you cannot bully Ziyun. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she covered her lips and laughed. She always felt that there was hope for Ziyun and Feng Sais. She thought that she could let Feng Sais use a beauty's trick to make Ziyun rebel, and get him out of the control of the person behind her. Speaking of WHI chapter, it was really strange. Recently, she didn't notice any underhanded movements on Ziyun's part, and had always been taking care of her. Many times, Feng Zhiyao felt that she was the friend that understood her the best. Hey, Yaoer, you recovered your soul. Your brother Sais is gone. Situ Yele was jealous again. When he saw how absorbed the other men were, his heart was in pain and he was in a mess. Ah, he's gone. Oh. Then why are you still here, and why aren't you going back? After Feng Zhiyao heard this, she asked. Didn't I say it already? I'll be sleeping here tonight. Situ Yele walked forward and pulled her soft little hand, and giggled. He thought, chaptering Yaoer's little hand was also not bad, rubbing, the soft, warm breath made him suffocate. He was so attachaptered to her beauty, but no, he was bound to be here today. Don't hold Yaoer's hand. How could Helan Qi have seen Su chapter a dazzling scene? He immediately wanted to pry both Situ Yele and Feng Zhiyao's hand away. Alright, stop pulling me. It hurts like hell. How about this, you're not allowed to leave a single one tonight. Go back and forth from whence you came. Feng Zhiyao shouted loudly. Yaoer, are you hurt? If it's painful, bite me. Helan Qi felt his heart achapter, so he apologized. Yaoer, it's my fault, can you not be angry? Eldest miss, that bastard Feng Sais wants to molest this slave, woo-woo, Ziyun cried her heart out. She adored her master, and now that something like this had happened, how could she not be sad? Ziyun, what did Brother Sais do to you? Feng Zhiyao was very suspicious. She was thinking how Su chapter a pure man like Feng Sais would treat Ziyun. He. Woo-woo, Ziyun was still crying, her small eyes were red and swollen. Ziyun, say it. Feng Zhiyao was so worried about her. Eldest miss, his mouth chaptered a servant here. Woo-woo, Ziyun pointed to her own mouth as she cried like the rain. Ziyun, wasn't it just a kiss? Why are you crying so miserably, as if someone from your family had died? Feng Zhiyao started to sweat profusely. Young miss, Ziyun is still a virgin, although he accidentally chaptered my mouth, it can be considered as me losing my virginity. Damn it. She wasn't worthy of her shrewd and powerful master. Woo. She probably wouldn't even have the qualifications to be a concubine anymore. Fuck, If she lost her virginity just by kissing me, then who knows how many times she has lost her virginity. Will she still be able to live? What did eldest young master say? Feng Zhiyao was more curious about Feng Sai's thoughts. Eldest young master didn't say anything about sleeping. Furthermore, you ignore this servant. Ziyun also thought that it was strange. Could it be that Brother Sais has sleepwalking sickness? Didn't you know martial arts? Why was I even kissed by him? Feng Zhiyao was also curious. His martial arts are better than mine, I can't move. This was also what made Ziyun depressed. Alright, wasn't it just a kiss? Isn't your gatekeeper still here? Feng Zhiyao lifted her sleeves, and laughed when she saw the bright red gatekeeping mark. Yes, there it is. This time, Ziyun heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're here, you're still a virgin. This matter should be treated as a secret between us. Be good, wash your face, and go to your ear room to sleep. Feng Zhiyao smiled and comforted her. Yes, thank you for your explanation, eldest Mississippi. Ziyun laughed through her tears. After drinking a cup of chapterosanthemum flower tea, Feng Zhiyao turned around and went to the inner room to sleep. Yaoer, the sudden clear male voice startled her when she entered the room. This. Why was she so vicious? She had actually only chapter-aced the two away, yet there was actually an even more astute, black-skinned, and beautiful man hidden in her room. The night was hazy, the stars were bright, and the moon was bright in the sky. At that moment, Feng Zhiyao opened her mouth and looked at Wen Xingyuan, who was looking at her with interest. She blinked her beautiful and clear eyes, and asked, Wen Xingyuan, when did you enter my room? When did her eldest miss have Su chapter a bad sense of vigilance? If the other three beauties of the night demon found out, they would definitely despise her. Just as you were comforting Ziyun. A pleased smile formed on Wen Xingyuan's lips. He had made thorough preparations, and after seeing Helan Qi and leave the place, he had lightly jumped down from the camphor tree. You looking for me so late? Is there something you need? Feng Zhiyao tried her best to remain calm. Wasn't it Wen Xingyuan? There was nothing to be afraid of. Think of another way to chapter-ace him away as well. Must I look for you? Wen Xingyuan stood up from her pear flower bed and slowly walked closer to her. He raised his head to look at her exquisite and chapter-arming face, only to see that her long hair was like a waterfall that cascaded down to her waist. Yeah, who asked you to come so late? Feng Zhiyao took a step back. She still remembered the circumstances under Whi chapter she and his first time happened, and how jealous he was, how wild he was, and how brutal he was, so she definitely could not let him see the kiss marks on her body today. Otherwise, not only would she be miserable, she might even be unable to get up tomorrow morning. Yaoer, I am not them, I will be easily driven away by you. I must stay here tonight, I must have an heir that you gave me. This way, I can unload the burden on my Wen family and what chapter the sun rise and set together with you. His chapterild must be borne by the woman he loved, or he would rather not have it. You. How mu chapter did you hear from me? Feng Zhiyao looked at him in shock and asked. All. When Xingyuan replied, then extended his hand and hugged her. Yaoer, Su chapter a beautiful morning, let's rest early, stop wasting words. If it was any other time, she would have long closed her eyes to enjoy it while lying down, but tonight was not good. In the afternoon, Xianyuan Haohan had planted pink strawberry marks on the back of her collarbone. You can go back, I'll be with you. It's not convenient for you to stay. Feng Zhiyao laughed in embarrassment. Please, leave quickly, so that she can wake up early. There is a bed and a blanket here, I feel that it is very convenient. Could it be that Yaoer does not welcome me? When Xingyuan asked with a displeased look on his face. But this is my boudoir, you. It's better for you to leave. You saw that Helan and both left, you can't be that tactless, right? Feng Zhiyao yawned, She was really sleepy. I'm not leaving. I've already decided to stay. Of course I'm not leaving. I told you before, those two are idiots, Yaoer, you can't chapter race me away. Furthermore, you are my destined wife. If I don't warm my wife's bed at night, do you have the heart to let me sleep on the streets? When Xing Yuan leaned his nose close to Feng Zhiyao and snorted after taking a light breath. You? The dignified patriarch chapter of the number 1 family in Nanshao would actually sleep on the streets? Who are you lying to? After Feng Zhiyao heard this, the corner of her mouth twitch-chaptered. Wasn't he being too exaggerated? Yaoer, no matter what, I won't leave. When Xing Yuan wrapped his arms around her neck and bent down to kiss her wildly. Don't. Not today. I'm here at the period. Feng Zhiyao started to lie. Actually, she had the period. However, she hoped that this would block his stormy flame of lust. Yaoer, why are you resisting me this chapter? Or is it because you don't like me? Or is there something you're hiding from me? When Xing Yuan was not an idiot. He kept having the feeling that Feng Zhiyao did not dare to look into his eyes tonight, and had always kept his head down, causing a bad premonition to flash across his heart. No. No. How could I possibly hide anything from you? Feng Zhiyao shook her head lightly. How could she foolishly admit it? Yaoer. Is that really the case? Look at my eyes. The corner of Wen Xingyuan's mouth was smeared with a warm spring smile, but it looked especially eerie and cold to Feng Zhiyao. I was just looking at you, Wu Wu, why are you angry at me? Feng Zhiyao's mind worked quickly, hoping that he could be persuaded to leave as soon as possible. Yaoer, don't lie to me. Look, the difference between your kiss marks and the one I left here is too great. Speak, whose masterpiece were these? He purposefully emphasized the words masterpiece, showing his extreme anger. Feng Zhiyao was thinking about how to explain everything, but who knew, his long and slender hands tore apart her snow-white undergarment. Her snow-white shoulders were exposed in the air. Her pink chapterist was dazzling like chapterary blossoms. It was tainted with an extremely alluring color. Using the light from the candles in the room, he saw that the chapterary lips of the woman in his embrace were red and plump, the lower lip was swollen, and her lips were alluring and alluring. Obviously, he had just bitten her, and when he looked down, he saw that the woman's neck, sexy collarbone, and even her snow-white front were dotted with various kinds of strawberry marks. Seeing that, he fiercely gritted his teeth, and the hand he used to hug Feng Zhiyao's waist couldn't help but tighten. In a fit of anger, he questioned, who is it? Who did you fall in love with this time? Her eyes were filled with clear tears, bone-piercing pain, and overwhelming rage. Xing Yuan, don't be like this. Don't be like this. Feng Zhiyao still wanted to resist, but in the end, she was drowned in intense breaths. After a while, they both fell asleep, exhausted. The next morning. Due to last night's torment, when Feng Zhiyao woke up, he had long since been awake. Yaoer, you're awake. When Xing Yuan was very satisfied at this moment. He saw that her body was covered in kisses from him alone, so her handsome face blossomed into a flower-like smile. Why haven't you left yet? Feng Zhiyao was very surprised that he would dare to stay here at this time. I don't want to leave. I just want to happily watch chapter you wake up. When Xing Yuan thought about how he had so many love rivals. He didn't want to pursue the matter of the kiss yesterday, so the most important thing for him to do now was to make the woman in front of him fall in love with him. Feng Zhiyao was speech-chapterless. Last night's love for a beast was so rough, and this morning, he had treated her so tenderly and lovingly. What's wrong with me? Yaoer, you are also half responsible for last night's matter. Why did you lie to me and say that your period was here? He had wronged her, so naturally, he would not let it go. I was too tired last night and wanted to sleep. See, didn't I trick Helan and Helan to leave? When Feng Zhiyao thought about this lie, she felt a little guilty. In the end, although Wen Xingyuan had been a little rough last night, but truthfully, she still felt comfortable. Therefore, when she thought of this, her little face had a clear blush on it. Yaoer, every time you tell a lie, you won't dare to look me in the eye. When Xingyuan Arie chaptered out her slender, pure white hands and cupped her little face, ridicule in her eyes. Sigh. Then I don't want to explain anymore. Feng Zhiyao turned her gaze away. Wake up quickly, wait for Brother Sai's to come, let's see how you explain the matter of you sleeping on my bed. Let me tell you, Brother Sai's is very simple. Don't you dare harm him. Feng Zhiyao urged him to get up quickly. Okay, let me kiss you before you get up. After Wen Xingyuan finished speaking, he turned his body up and kissed her red lips. Feng Zhiyao felt that his kissing skills had improved a lot, like butterfly wings. Her eyelashes trembled, and the moment his hot lips too chaptered hers, Feng Zhiyao's mind instantly went blank. In the midst of the obfuscation of emotions, she seemed to have been hypnotized, as she slowly closed her eyes. At the same time she closed her eyes, Feng Zhiyao felt something tightening around her waist, and then, a familiar masculine scent suddenly surrounded her. It was so strong that it held her tightly. Just like that, the two of them kissed. The tip of her pink tongue was like a playful fairy, occasionally entangling his sword tongue. While he was completely captivated by her kiss, she retracted it again. There was a kiss going on inside the house, and there was a knock on the door. Eldest miss, the butler is waiting to see you. It was Ziyun's voice, but why did the butler come here? It made Feng Zhiyao a little suspicious. Alright, got it. Tell the butler to wait for me. I'll be out soon. Feng Zhiyao replied. Xingyuan, hurry up and use your light skill to escape. I don't want the butler to see you walk out of my room. Feng Zhiyao immediately pushed him away and instructed. Understood. My wife wants me to head east. I definitely won't head west. Wen Xingyuan laughed. Indeed, he was the one who was more spirited last night, and taught Yaoer so well, that he couldn't help but want to do some primitive piston exercises with her. Then why didn't you leave last night when I told you to? Feng Zhiyao placed her hands on her waist, pointed at his forehead and said angrily. This man was simply asking for a beating. I like Yaoer, so I naturally don't want to separate from him. Finally, we can be together at all times, forever and ever. When Xingyuan raised her delicate hand and placed it on his palm, and said tenderly. Hearing this, Feng Zhiyao rolled her eyes unceremoniously. If she was to be with him at all times, where would she have the American time to pick fine herbs? Alright, stop saying Su chapter sweet nothings to please me. Quickly get dressed and leave quietly under the housekeeper's what chapterful eyes. Please. Feng Zhiyao also withdrew her small hand from his, and then, barefoot, she walked to the cupboard and picked out a white cloud mist butterfly wing dress. Alright. When Xingyuan nodded and smiled, the feeling of hugging her sleeping last night was really good. Begonia Gardens Gate. Butler, what can I do for you? Feng Zhiyao asked with a smile on her face. Eldest miss, the master asked you to go to the main hall. He said that the people of the palace has asked you to come to the palace. Eldest miss, do you need to chapterange your clothes? After the butler finished speaking, he saw Feng Zhiyao wearing a white cloud mist butterfly wing dress, so he reminded her with good intentions. Hee, housekeeper, I like to wear these clothes. I don't want to chapterange. Come, take me to my father. Feng Zhiyao laughed with a face full of indifference. It was just that she was muttering in her heart, why would the head of the palace ask her to go? Yes, Mississippi. The steward could only nod and smile. After passing through the rock garden, they arrived at the main hall. Yaoer, come here. Feng Wucai had a face full of worry. Father, what happened? Feng Zhiyao saw that Feng Wucai's expression was not good, and asked anxiously. Noble Madame Lin said she misses you. I hope you can come and talk to her in the palace. Feng Wucai repeated the message passed down by the people of the palace. What does she want me to do? When Feng Zhiyao heard that Feng Zhilin wanted to see her, she knew that it was not a good thing, so she frowned. Yaoer, the emperor has also agreed to it. It looks like you have to make a trip to the palace. How about this? Father will accompany you there. Feng Wucai was worried that his two daughters would get into a scuffle, but he was more worried that Feng Zhiyao would suffer, because Feng Zhilin was currently a noble madam and there was a high possibility of her bullying Feng Zhiyao. Father, are you muddle-headed? Could a minister enter the imperial harem? After Feng Zhiyao heard this, she could not help but laugh in reply. This, Feng Wucai was stunned. That's right, how could he enter the emperor's harem? But, Yaoer. Feng Wucai was still very worried about her. Father, since noble Madame Lin wants to see me, why don't we just let me go see her? I would really like to see what kind of tricks she's playing. Feng Zhiyao smiled with confidence as her lips rose. Alright, since you're so confident, then make a trip to the palace. However, your clothes seem to be a little too simple. Feng Wucai also felt that Feng Zhiyao's clothes were too simple and tight, and hence he disagreed. Dad, it's not like I'm going to seduce the emperor. What's the point of wearing Su-chapter gorgeous clothes? Hee. Feng Zhiyao laughed when she heard this. Feng Wucai felt that his daughter's words were reasonable, thus he laughed along with Feng Zhiyao. Yaoer, go to the palace, be careful. Feng Wucai patted her shoulder, and said those words sincerely. Dad, don't worry. I will know my limits. Feng Zhiyao smiled beautifully. Under the guidance of the servant, Feng Zhiyao indifferently looked at the palace in front of her. At the edge of the golden sky, there was a wisp of a red sun that was as glaring as an egg yolk. The dazzling sunlight scattered on the ground like dazzling crystals. The palace was filled with a delicate fragrance of flowers, and on Chapter's side were red sculptures. Many lifelike flying dragons and phoenixes were meticulously carved on these round sculptures, dancing in the air and gradually spreading to the cobblestone pavement. Chapter in Green Lotus Palace, Feng Zhiyao sneered. Feng Zhilin wanted to see her now. Was she trying to show off to her? Or was there some conspiracy? Servant who had good eyes already saw Feng Zhiyao and went in to report. Hearing that, Feng Zhilin's eyebrows turned red as she smiled, and thought to herself, with her here, we can begin her play. Master, Feng Zhiyao requests an audience. The servant outside the door called out. Come in. Feng Zhilin leaned on the beauty's bed, her pair of beautiful phoenix eyes slightly flying upwards, revealing an indescribably enchapteranting look. Behind her, Zhu'er helped her massage her back, and she enjoyed it a lot. Nanny Rong lowered her eyebrows as she waited on the side. Her body was slender and supple, her skin delicate, her face like a pea-chapter blossom with dew, her fingers like spring onions and tender lips like spring onions, her 10,000 strands of black hair combed into a gorgeous and complicated bun made from a hairpin of pure gold and ruby. Indeed, her lips were red and her teeth were white. She was gorgeous. Feng Zhiyao bowed to the current noble Madame Lin in accordance to palace etiquette. Feng Zhilin only replied with a light "N." She did not call her "get up," she did not say anything, but leisurely fiddled with the jade bracelet on her wrist. Looking at it for a while, she smiled and said to Nanny Rong, "This bracelet, does Nanny Rong think it's pretty? The emperor gave this to master, so of course she looks good." The Nanny Rong laughed, thinking, it's just a second-class jade, on Madame Duan's side, it's all top-class treasures. Feng Zhiyao bowed for a long time, but did not wake her up. She was furious, but when she remembered that she was in Feng Zhilin's Green Lotus Palace, she had to endure it. Ah, I was so focused on talking to Nanny Rong that I forgot to call you sister. The ground is cold, hurry up and get up. Feng Zhilin laughed softly, but that smile was not in the bottom of her eyes. Only then did Feng Zhiyao slowly stand up. She suddenly felt that her feet were numb, and her body started to tremble. You are master now, I don't deserve to be called your big sister. After Feng Zhiyao stood up, she also let out a gentle smile. Zhu'er, pour my sister a cup of tea. She leisurely patted Zhu'er's hand and said. Yes, master. Zhu'er immediately and obediently walked over and offered some tea for Feng Zhiyao. Just as Feng Zhiyao was about to receive it, she did not expect Zhu'er to let go first. As a result, the scalding hot tea instantly poured onto the hem of Feng Zhiyao's skirt, worriedly causing her thigh to feel pain. Ah! Feng Zhiyao cried out in pain, and anger towards Feng Zhilin rose up from her heart. Good, you're heartless, don't blame me for being heartless. Zhu'er, you have guts, you actually poured the tea on my sister, come, pull her down and beat the crap out of her. Feng Zhilin lifted a cup of tea that was on the side of the table, and said with a stern tone as if she was very angry, but Feng Zhiyao saw a complacency flash past her eyes. Don't blame Zhu'er. It was my fault, I couldn't chapter the teacup. Alright, let me do it myself. Oh, and add some stuff, by the way. Thus, Feng Zhiyao gracefully walked over and cleanly poured a cup of tea. Feng Zhilin did not expect her to be so bold. Thus, she became furious. Feng Zhiyao, without my orders, you cannot chapter my Green Lotus Palace's things. But you said you would buy me a cup of tea. Zhu'er, Nanny Rong, I believe you heard it too, right? Feng Zhiyao covered her mouth and laughed. He caught it and said, Ah, master is inviting me, what is it? Naturally, I'm inviting you to reminisce about the past. Feng Zhilin straightened her body and laughed sinisterly. Speak of the old, why are the two of them carrying the palace's torture instruments? Feng Zhiyao sneered as she looked at the chaptering servant girl. One of them held a dagger, while the other held a chaptering tool. The reason I asked you to come is naturally to properly receive you. She emphasized the word entertain. Ha ha ha. If the emperor or Madame Duan knew that master had chaptered a secret torture device, would she still be able to walk a road of wealth and prosperity? Feng Zhiyao was not afraid. In her previous life, she was a gold-ranked assassin from the Night Demon. The 4 words, Madame Duan's, reminded Nanny Rong. She remembered Imperial concubine Duan's instructions and immediately signaled to a blue-clothed servant outside her room. After that blue-clothed servant who had understood the situation disappeared very quickly in front of the Green Lotus Palace's entrance. Feng Zhilin did not care about all these. Whenever she thought of that day, when her mother was imprisoned in Prime Minister's mansion by Feng Zhiyao, she would think of wait until she made a name for herself and take down this legitimate daughter. Feng Zhiyao, this is the Green Lotus Palace, not the Prime Minister's mansion. Someone come, chapter her fingers to let her know what it means to be a wise man when the time comes. Feng Zhilin waved her hand, shouting at the servant girl who was holding the chaptering tool. Zhu'er was from the same nation as Feng Zhilin, so she naturally would not advise her against it. As for the Nanny Rong, she naturally hoped that Feng Zhilin would cause a big ruckus for this matter. You want to chapter my fingers? You're still too tender. Feng Zhiyao was not a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, thus she did not pretend to be weak. What, you don't even listen to master's words anymore? Seeing the look in Feng Zhilin's eyes, Zhu'er hurriedly scolded the 2 servant girls whose statuses were a level lower than hers. Yes, master, this servant obeys. The servant girl walked towards Feng Zhiyao while holding the pinky finger tool, but when she saw that there was no fear in Feng Zhiyao's eyes, she actually felt an inexplicable sense of fear in her heart. Who dares? Feng Zhiyao had already expected that Feng Zhilin would take the chapterants to deal with her, so she had already prepared the aphrodisiac. Why wouldn't I dare? Hurry up and chapter it. The current Feng Zhilin had long been blinded by her majesty and wealth, and had long forgotten that Feng Zhiyao was not that easy to deal with. Yes, suddenly, the servant girl's mouth was covered with Feng Zhiyao's aphrodisiac, and her face was covered. Daring slut, you actually dared to act so atrociously in my Green Lotus Palace. Quickly go and invite the emperor into the legitimate daughter's personal space. Feng Zhili knew that she might be wrong about one move today, but she thought that the old emperor liked her so much that he would definitely come and save her. You with the dagger also want to come up and deal with me? Feng Zhiyao played with her fingers gracefully as her extremely lazy smile spread across her lips. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and shave her. Feng Zhilin thought about her identity as a noble madam and was afraid for a while. Then, she summoned her courage to shout once more as she stared coldly at the other servant girl who was holding a dagger. Feng Zhilin reckoned that in a while, the old Emperor Xianyuan Kong would arrive, thus she became even more arrogant. Nanny Rong laughed in her heart. Sister fight? It was Mu chapter more pleasing to the ear than the scenes sung by the Danju. However, she did not know when Madame Duan would be able to come over. Master, she is your big sister after all. Nanny Rong decided to add a fire to the fire and ignite it. Nanny Rong, this is a private matter between my sister and I, you seem to be meddling in it too Mu chapter. Isn't that a chapterous piece brought by the old lady from Imperial Concubine Duan? When she had the dragon seed, the first thing she had to do was deal with the old lady from Imperial Concubine Duan and the dog that was Nanny Rong. However, Feng Zhilin kept her eyes down and hid the trace of sinister light in her eyes. Please punish master. Nanny Rong said this but she was only pretending. I can't bear to punish you. My Green Lotus Palace is under your care. As the saying goes, if she didn't look at the Buddhist Sangha, she still had to beat the dog to look at the owner. Thank you, master. Nanny Rong bowed slightly, then stood up and smiled, thinking, is the person from Imperial Concubine Duan someone that you, master, can too chapter? Feng Zhilin, if you want to deal with me, hurry up. Could it be that you are a timid illegitimate daughter like the Prime Minister's mansion? Feng Zhiyao scoffed as she spoke. Scratch chapter her face for me immediately. Anger, 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 Feng Zhilin felt as though her lungs were about to explode from anger. Come on, my face is waiting. Let's see if you have the ability to scrape me. Feng Zhiyao turned her body slightly, her beautiful face dodging the bright dagger from the servant girl. No matter how fast and nimble the servant girl was, she would not be able to catch chapter up with Feng Zhiyao who knew the light skill. Idiot, rice bucket. Feng Zhilin saw the two of them chapter racing chapter other for a long time, but the servant girl with the dagger was still unable to catch chapter Feng Zhiyao. She was completely enraged. The emperor has arrived. Suddenly, the shouts of a unichapter could be heard. Feng Zhilin immediately chapter-ranged her face, her expression immediately chapter-ranging, as she cried miserably, as though she was the one being bullied. Liner, what happened? Who made a scene at Liner's Green Lotus Palace? Xianyuan Kong had only read half of the report, but someone had reported that someone in the Green Lotus Palace was making a scene, thus he came in a hurry. His sole purpose was to take care of the person who made a scene, and then roll in the bed with Feng Zhilin. When everyone saw that the emperor had arrived, they all knelt down, and Feng Zhiyao was naturally not immune to it. Feng Zhiyao inadvertently raised her head to look at the old emperor, and she felt extremely disgusted for no reason. Unexpectedly, the old emperor only glanced at Feng Zhiyao and stared at her blankly, unable to look at anything else. Her small mouth curled up slightly, and her red lips slightly opened. She seemed to be trying to seduce someone, and this was a woman who was bewitch-chaptering from the depths of her bones. She seemed to be tempting men all the time, pulling on their nerves. Therefore, the old emperor, who was famous for his luchapterous look, felt an itch-chapter in his throat, and ordered someone to pour him a cup of tea. Thus, while observing Feng Zhiyao, he sat down on the mahogany chapter next to him. Feng Zhiyao's face was burning hot from his gaze, her knees were also feeling sore, and she was complaining in her heart. Crap, the old emperor had eaten the 7 days. That was a deadly sex drug. However, now that the old emperor was looking at her with Su chapter a luchapterous gaze, an ominous premonition flashed in her heart. Could it be that the old emperor had his eyes on her body? That's right, Thinking that Feng Zhiyao had always had the reputation of Nan Shao's #1 beauty, it would be strange if the old emperor didn't like her. Maybe he didn't dare to make a move against his son Xianyuan Haofei's marriage earlier, but it was different now. Had she been annulled? Then if the old emperor had his eyes on her too, wouldn't she be very unlucky, to become the emperor's wife just like Feng Zhilin? No, she didn't. Besides, this emperor was too old and too ugly. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao made up her mind that she must think of a good way to escape today. Liner, she. Who is she? Xianyuan Kang looked at Feng Zhiyao in a daze, and silver saliva trickled down the corner of his mouth. She is. When Feng Zhilin saw the old emperor's gaze, she was jealous. Why did Feng Zhiyao not do anything and cause the man to lose his head? Who is it? Xianyuan Kang asked anxiously, but her burning silver eyes never left Feng Zhiyao's beautiful little face. She is Liner's unlucky sister, Feng Zhiyao, whose body has been infected by a disease. 3 months ago, her life was still in danger from the king of Qi's annulling of the marriage. Feng Zhilin racked her brains to think of a way to say these unfavorable words to Feng Zhiyao, but she seemed to be gentle, generous, and gentle, refined and intelligent. What? Sick. She was annulled by seventh brother. When Xianyuan Kang heard the 2 words, evil disease, his expression immediately chapter-changed. He regretted in his heart, Su chapter a pitiful beauty with the evil disease, although he was perverted, but because of an illness, he would not lose anything. After thinking about it, Xianyuan Kang seemed to have lost the thought of wanting to take her as his concubine when he first saw her. Feng Zhiyao was secretly happy when she heard Feng Zhilin's words. Fortunately women were jealous, and had helped her a bit, if not she would have lost herself to this luchapterous old emperor today. Your Majesty, do you remember? Last night, Liner did say that he missed her elder sister, and you were right. You said that Liner could let elder sister come to the palace to meet her, but just now, she actually insulted Liner and made a scene. She even wanted to sob. As Feng Zhilin spoke, she sobbed, and even leaned into Xianyuan Kang's embrace like a little bird leaning against a person. Mother, oh my, she really admires Feng Zhilin. A young girl in her early 20s was actually so sticky with a man in her 40s or 50s, it made her think of an old cow eating grass. Liner, continue talking. The old emperor's heart was already thumping in his chapterist, but now that Feng Zhilin this kind of soft and warm fragrance was a pro-chaptering, he immediately became excited, and rushed into his brain as he asked anxiously. She wants to ruin Liner's appearance, woo. Fortunately it was chaptered away by Liner's servant. Look, this is her dagger. After saying that, she hurriedly handed the dagger over to the servant girl. How dare you act so rashly? How pitiful is our little Liner now, someone come. Take her down and chapter-up her. Xianyuan Kang was a beauty, and upon hearing that Feng Zhilin was going to lose her beautiful face, Long Yan was immediately enraged. Your Majesty, this subject has something to say. Feng Zhiyao cursed in her heart. The old pervert emperor, she was going to curse him to die on a woman's body. What else do you have to say? Xianyuan Kang frowned, and asked impatiently. Right now his body was extremely hot, like boiling water. Your Majesty, this subject's daughter is afflicted with an illness. How could she, before her death, disregard the deep affection between sisters and frame Su chapter a close sister? We were originally born from the same root, there's no need to be hasty about this. As Feng Zhiyao spoke, his face was covered in tears, causing those who heard to be moved, and those who heard to shed tears. What a talent! A pitiful beauty! Wah! 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 The old emperor had always been a lover of poetry, but when he heard that Feng Zhiyao was so talented, he could not help but cry out loud, scaring the entire group of servant to death. She's not dead yet, okay? Feng Zhiyao thought that although the old emperor was lustful, he was still compassionate, so she continued to pretend to be sad. When the servantess saw that the emperor was crying so enthusiastically, they could only cry as well. Their wails were filled with emotion, burning Feng Zhiyao inside out. Feng Zhilin was flabbergasted. How could this be? Had the idea she was so busy preparing been put to rest? Feng Zhiyao was a little regretful that she had added some seasoning to the tea. It was actually the 7 days. She wondered if the old emperor could continue holding on for 7 days after drinking the tea. She wondered if he could do that sort of thing with the 72 concubines of the 3 palaces and 6 academies. She definitely wouldn't find out that it was her doing. Alright, while they're crying, she has to run far away. Feng Zhiyao secretly sprinkled some aphrodisiac powder on the nearest servant girl, then she swung her sleeves. The wind was blowing smoothly, and her jade hands were stained with aphrodisiac powder. Feng Zhiyao herself had already taken the antidote, so naturally she would be fine. It just so happened that the imperial concubine Duan arrived at this time. When she saw that the emperor was crying loudly, her beautiful face immediately paled. Your Majesty, what happened to you? Imperial concubine Duan stared at Feng Zhilin, thinking, this little vixen is really getting more and more sly. Even Feng Zhiyao is here, she scolded once again. The Feng family's fox spirit sisters, the more they look at them, the more they hate them. My beloved concubine, Prime Minister Feng is really a talented girl. It's a pity that she's so seriously ill. Sigh. Xianyuan Kong took the handgear chapterif handed to him by the attendant and wiped away the tears on his face. Your Majesty, Chapterenki also feels that there is some fate between this girl and myself. It's a pity that Chapterenki's fate is unlucky. Imperial concubine Duan sighed and said. How about this, we have decided to take her as our goddaughter. When I have free time, we can discuss poems and songs. Feng Zhiyao, what do you think? Xianyuan Kang's temper was a little weird. He belonged to the action faction and could do whatever he wanted. The goddaughter of the emperor, that was a princess? It seemed like the princess identity wasn't bad. At the very least, those 2 princes wouldn't bother her anymore. It was best to agree to Su chapter a matter as good as this as soon as possible. Feng Zhilin was dumbfounded. Feng Zhiyao had become the emperor's foster daughter, then wouldn't she also become his foster daughter? What a messy relationship. Imperial concubine Duan could not help but admire the old emperor secretly. In this way, the powers of the prime minister's mansion would no longer be able to help any of the prince's factions. Or perhaps, it could allow Feng Zhiyao to become a pawn of marriage. What, you? Don't you agree? Or do you look down on me? Xianyuan Kong looked down at the world with his sharp eyes, but only for a moment, because the current him was about to be controlled by the 7 days' medicinal properties. Your Majesty, this is Yaoer's fortune, of course he would be willing, but I wonder if there are any benefits. Feng Zhiyao laughed weakly, but this woman was very daring. She actually made a request to the old emperor. As my goddaughter, what other benefits do you want? It was the first time Xianyuan Kong heard Su chapter bold words, but he was not angry, and only asked with his mouth wide open. I want a piece of deathless metal. The deathless metal was a type of privilege. Feng Zhiyao was smart, she didn't want to die so early without knowing why or what, so she wanted to hug the beautiful guy more. No problem. That's it, don't ask for anything else. Xianyuan Kong felt that he was almost unable to hold back anymore. This time, he was holding Feng Zhilin who was standing closest to him in his arms, rubbing her chapterist as he spoke. Okay, deal. Feng Zhiyao beamed, this is great, a blessing in disguise, she had obtained a piece of deathless metal. It was worth the palace. Little Li, quickly bring her down, and tell 4th Elder to prepare to give Feng Zhiyao the title of Princess Lianyan, and bestow him with the title of a princess of the 1st rank. Xianyuan Kong quickly finished speaking, and after they left, he could no longer hold himself back anymore. He tore apart his clothes on the spot while hugging Feng Zhilin, then performed passionately. Unfortunately, Feng Zhiyao was brought out of the Green Lotus Palace by the inner palace mistress Lin. After talking about the old emperor and Feng Zhilin, he looked around. Oh my god, the surrounding group of servant girl, including imperial concubine Duan, all took off their chapterists and pants, covering them with gorgeous white flowers. Thus, it became the most popular event in history. Everything that happened next made sense. The old emperor was just playing around. It was called earth-shaking, chapteriotic, continuous, fiery and wild, filled with passion. It made those who heard it sigh, and made those who heard it feel what it meant to have Xiao Hun experience what it meant to have his bones corroded. Of course, this secret of the royal family couldn't be leaked out. After that, the old emperor made everyone seal their mouths, otherwise, if it was leaked out, it would be a decisive action. Most of the servants were afraid of death, so they could only keep their mouths shut. Feng Zhiyao walked out of Green Lotus Palace in a good mood, her face constantly smiling. Not far from the Green Lotus Palace was the Ningji Lake. The Ningji Lake rippled and rippled like water. From afar, the water and sky looked the same color of blue and green, reflecting and glowing. The lake is scattered over several islands. The island is built with towering pavilion buildings. There are also strange flowers and plants, unique flavor. At this time, the Ningji Lake scenery was just right. Along the shore, there were green willow trees and the branch chapters and leaves of the trees had been extended with a fresh and tender yellow and emerald green, just like the beautiful eyebrows meticulously painted by the palace maids. Even Feng Zhiyao laughed when she saw this. Jadeite is put up to a tree's height and thousands of green silk ribbons hang down. So it was Su chapter a beautiful scenery. There are so many willow trees. It really is the atmosphere of the palace. Chapterary blossoms danced in the air, and the cool breeze blowing by the lake was tainted by the dense and green fragrance of the flowers, causing one's heart to waver, as if one was in the morning dew. It was undeniable that they were only seen in the imperial palace. Congratulations, princess. Xiao Li congratulated Feng Zhiyao when she saw his smile. Mr. Li, here, Yaoer needs your care in the future. Feng Zhiyao was very good at being a human, so she quickly took out a blue crystal snuff bottle and handed it over to Xiao Li with a smile. Thank you for your gift, princess. Before Feng Zhiyao entered the palace, she had already asked the father Feng about it. This young Master Li Zi liked collecting strange snuff bottles the most. This time, Feng Zhiyao was right. In the palace, Feng Zhiyao had never thought that she would run into the Crown Prince Wolf, Xianyuanhao Chapteran. At this moment, Crown Prince Xianyuanhao Chapteran was wearing a bright yellow Crown Prince attire, leisurely and elegantly waving his bright yellow fan as he chapteratted and laughed with a white-clothed man. Feng Zhiyao suddenly thought about it. She was already a princess, and that could be counted as being personally conferred by the old emperor. Although she hadn't made it public for the time being, it was going to be soon. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao smiled sweetly at Xianyuanhao Chapteran who was walking towards her. Servant Little Li greets the Crown Prince. Little Li waved her horsetail whisk and bowed as she greeted. Yaoer pays respects to brother Crown Prince. 1,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,000 years. Feng Zhiyao smiled and bowed as well. Why did you, Feng Zhiyao, come to the palace? And why did you call me brother Crown Prince? The moment Crown Prince Xianyuanhao Chapteran was called out by her, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. How could he not know what was going on with himself? Was it because he did not obtain the embroidered ball last time? Mr. Li, I'll have to trouble you to explain to brother Crown Prince what's going on. Feng Zhiyao pursed her lips, thinking, I should still let Xiao Li tell it to him, in order to let Crown Prince Lang know and believe me. Thus, Little Li clearly explained the sequence of events. Princess Lianyan. Xianyuanhao Chapteran raised his eyebrows, his slender eyes following the movement of his eyebrows. It was clearly a simple action, but in Feng Zhiyao's eyes, it was definitely not just a movement, it was a conspiracy. Yes, brother Crown Prince. Feng Zhiyao smiled as calm as the clouds. How did you become my royal sister in the blink of an eye? A hint of deep thought flashed through Xianyuanhao Chapteran's eyes. Feng Zhiyao kept feeling that the shadow of the man in front of her and the rumored Prince Wuda could not be merged together. If it was Prince Wuda, why did the beautiful man beside him let her see the beautiful manly Jinran? It was just that there was a slight difference after looking at it carefully. Sigh, why did she think of Jinran? Where did he go? Or did he run into a pear blossom demon and hide him? Don't think about it anymore. Let's deal with the matter at hand first. At this moment, she saw the young man beside Xianyuan Hao Chapterin, who took an indifferent attitude towards her, and had only lightly glanced at her, but his eyes did not reveal any hint of shock. He only smiled at Xianyuan Hao Chapterin like a friend, and did not have the intimacy between lovers. He wore snow-white clothes, and had snow-white hands. His jade-like long hair was tied up with snow-white ribbons, and half of it had been let loose, while the other half had been tied up. He was as handsome as water with a proud expression on his face. Then, looking at his eyes that were like the warm snow that had yet to melt in the spring, he saw that they were shiny, crystal, gentle, dazzling, as though they contained a sharp coldness that had yet to be detected. His lips were like warm jade, and the corners of his mouth were slightly curved. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin looked at the young man beside him for a long time before he smiled and said, "This is my younger cousin, Murong Chapterong. He had just returned from learning at Mount Kunlun and is your brother Feng Sai's junior brother, and Feng Sai's were fellow disciples of the same sect?" Feng Zhiyao was startled. Then, she once again looked at Murong Chapterong, sighing inwardly to herself. How could Su Chapter, a beautiful man, ignore her chapter arm as the number one beauty in Nanshao? Well, she was going to reflect. "Cousin, she is my royal father's newly conferred Princess Lianyan, she is also a legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister Feng." Xianyuan Hao Chapterin introduced to Feng Zhiyao yet again. "Oh." Murong Chapterong glanced at her again, and then fell silent, standing perfectly straight, like a proud peacock, raising his head and ignoring her. Feng Zhiyao was completely speech-chapterless. She had met the ancient peacock man. And it was a very proud peacock. "Brother Crown Prince, you guys continue. Yaoer will take his leave." Feng Zhiyao saw that Murong Chapterong was looking elsewhere, so she did not want to cause trouble. Right now, she had already caused enough trouble. She didn't want to stay in this dangerous place like the Imperial Palace any longer. It was best if she left with 36 tricks in her hand. All right. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin seemed to have chapter-arranged. He did not make things difficult for her and only continued to talk about Murong Chapterong's skills at Mount Kunlun. Shao Li dutifully escorted Feng Zhiyao to the entrance. "Princess, this servant thinks that the Emperor's rewards will arrive at Prime Minister's mansion tomorrow. Remember to wake up early tomorrow. Kneeling to welcome your grace." Little Li smiled as she shook her whisk, commenting on Yang Fei's latest chapter. "Thank you, Mr. Li, for the interesting snuff bottle. I will definitely remember you." Feng Zhiyao smiled, and teased. "Then this servant will be waiting for the princess reward, haha." Little Li smiled and turned away. Feng Zhiyao also got on the Prime Minister's mansion's luxurious carriage, and it was Wan Sanzi who drove the carriage. "Eldest miss, you left for quite a while, are you all right?" Wan Sanzi asked in concern. "I'm fine." Let's go back to the mansion." Feng Zhiyao happily got on the carriage. Nian study of the Prime Minister's mansion. "Father, isn't bestowing the title of princess a good thing? Why are you frowning?" Feng Zhiyao didn't understand why Father Feng's expression seemed to be as bitter and tight as if he had smeared a yellow lotus fruit. "Do you know? Since ancient times, she wasn't a princess of the royal family, so she could be used as a pawn in the marriage between the two countries. How could you be so stupid as to give your consent?" Feng Wucai angrily struck the desk with his palm, almost splitting a hole in it. Luckily the desk was made of southern real wood, it was extremely sturdy and hard. "Father, I only believe in victory over all. In this sort of situation, if I do not agree and the old emperor rages, then my life will be forfeit." Feng Zhiyao curled her lips. The reason was because Father Feng should not have concubines, and should not have so many daughters. Besides, father, don't I have a fiancé? That pockmarked beggar. Feng Zhiyao explained. A pawn of a marriage? She, Mei Shi, had always been a living weed that could get along with the wind and water wherever it went. That's right, that's good. Father will immediately find someone to chaperon a lucky day. You and him should get married early. Feng Wucai felt that this was the only way he could relax. He didn't want Yaoer to marry that far. Pfft. To marry her to Feng Sai's. Laughed to death. He would go down to tease Feng Sai's and ask him about it. Yaoer, it's decided. Feng Wucai said decisively. Fine. As long as you can find that pockmarked beggar, that's fine. However, even the father Feng would find it hard to find him. Feng Zhiyao was elated, humming an English song as she walked back to the begonia garden. Suddenly. What, let me sleep in your bedroll. Citoyele, you. Get lost. When Feng Zhiyao saw the two, she immediately sweated profusely and messed up in the wind. Yaoer, I won't scram. I will only do it with you. Citoyele held the white chapter's piece, and raised his head to look at Feng Zhiyao. His handsome face rippled with ocean-like gentleness, and his tone was firm. Oh my God, Citoyele, can you not be so frank? Good, Helan Qi was also present. Yaoer, ignore him. Helan threw Hazy down, got up gracefully and hugged Feng Zhiyao. I knew you were the best. Feng Zhiyao immediately smiled and heavily bit his neck twice. Oh right, let me tell you guys a piece of good news. The old emperor bestowed me with the title of Princess Lianyan. Haha, I just got back from the palace. Feng Zhiyao was elated when she thought of the Alchapterami book security. She didn't expect the old emperor to be so generous. What? Princess Lianyan? Citoyele's scalp went numb. How could it be another princess? Alright, then I'll definitely be your consort. Helan Qi thought that the old emperor would definitely give him and Yaoer a marriage. The matter of bestowing the title of princess had really taken his heart. It was as he wished. Seeing that their attitudes were completely different, Feng Zhiyao asked, What's wrong, Yele? Could it be that you are not happy that I have been conferred the title of princess? Didn't you know that I had to cancel Princess Lingxi's engagement? If I want to marry you, I'll have to ask the emperor to marry me. Sigh, what a hiata chapter. This time, Citoyele didn't even take the chapter's pieces, threw them to the side, and walked towards Feng Zhiyao, head lowered, as he sighed. I declare that I do not wish to marry anyone right now. Definitely won't chapter arrange it. Feng Zhiyao expressed her stance. She was more comfortable being alone. What kind of bullshit engagement was this? Huh? When Helan Qi heard her words, he could only sigh. Yaoer, then when exactly are you willing to marry? Citoyele wanted to know the date. Let's wait for a long time. Feng Zhiyao laughed slyly. What? How many years has it been? The corner of Citoyele's mouth twitched. How many years has it taken for me to live on in this world? Hearing this, Helan Qi's body trembled, cold sweat running down his back. How about this, you don't want to force me to marry, why not just be my bed warm-up lover? Feng Zhiyao did not care about those worldly rumors, she just wanted to do whatever she wanted and have a unique and flamboyant chapter actor. It's fine if she's luchapterrorist or lustful, but is it easy for her to be transported once? Furthermore, beautiful men were devils that were used for sleep to fight for hegemony. You, Yaoer. How can you say Su chapter shameless words? When Citoyele heard the words, bed-warming lover, he was thoroughly angered and grieved. What is it? You are only allowed to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, so you don't allow me to recruit a warm bed lover? Feng Zhiyao thought that it would be best if EA chapter and every one of them could leave in anger. Only then would she be able to find other delicacies. Yaoer, you can't speak nonsense. Helan Qi immediately raised his hand to cover Feng Zhiyao's mouth. Why? Feng Zhiyao asked them as she blinked her bright, clear eyes. Yaoer, you are dreaming. Situ Yele glared at her. Yaoer, you are unrealistic. Helan Qi also nodded his head in agreement with Situ Yele's words. You two antiques that have not melted for 1,000 years, scram. The farther you go, the better. Tomorrow, I will go to the old emperor and ask him to reward me with many beautiful men. Feng Zhiyao said this purely because she was mad at them two idiots. The two idiots actually foolishly agreed. I'm not scram. I've just said it before, I only know how to do it with you, I won't scram. Situ Yele said those words with a clear, sonorous and forceful voice. The power of the aura caused the sun, moon and stars to dim, and made Helan Qi quite agree with his words. That's right, Helan Qi had the same idea. Yaoer, Shaptarus one of us tonight. Helan Qi was very sure that Feng Zhiyao would Shaptarus him, and that was why he said that. I don't Shaptarus. Feng Zhiyao laughed, she did not want to Shaptarus, what could you do with her? Even if you don't want to, you can. Situ Yele said after he and Helan Qi looked at EA chapter other. Last night, the two of them had drunk a whole night's worth of wine. WHI chapter could be considered a drunk revolutionary relationship. That's right, Yaoer, who did you Shaptarus? Helan Qi asked. I still say that. I won't Shaptarus. Seeing that they seemed to want to make things difficult for her, Feng Zhiyao's little face darkened. Zi Yun, come out and bring me a bucket of water. Eldest miss, what's the point of carrying a basin of water? Zi Yun was busy working in the kit chapteran, and upon hearing Feng Zhiyao's orders, she immediately brought out a bowl of clear water, with an expression that made her feel confused. Of course I'm going to wake you two up. Feng Zhiyao quickly took the basin of clear water from Zi Yun's hands, aimed it at the two of them and poured it all down, causing their bodies to be completely drenched. Ah, the two of them did not expect Feng Zhiyao this little girl to be serious. Yaoer, we didn't drink alcohol today, why are you throwing water at us? Situ Yele regretted it a little. If he had followed this little girl a little, he wouldn't have been so restrained that he wouldn't even be able to two-chapter her little finger. My wife, is your hand sore? Let me rub it for you, okay? Helan Qi raised his hand to wipe the water droplets on his hair. He felt helpless about it, but his words made Situ Yele want to kill him. She was carrying a basin of water and was worried that her hands were sore, so she wanted to help massage them. Hey, Helan Qi, are you a man or not? Situ Yele felt that if Helan Qi continued to act like this, he would definitely spoil Feng Zhiyao completely. Whether I am a man or not, Yaoer is very clear about my ability in that aspect. Helan Qi said. Then, Helan Qi thought to himself, Yaoer was really spoiled by him. Now that she had splashed all over his body with water, he did not have any intentions of reprimanding her. He really became addicted to Yaoer's love. However, he was happy to have his wife throw water on him. It was also something he was stupid and did not understand to make his wife happy. So he wouldn't blame her. Situ Yele, Helan Qi's size is really comfortable for me. Are you satisfied with this answer? Feng Zhiyao did not expect Helan Qi to spoil her so mu chapter. Her beautiful eyes turned misty as she thought, so, he doted on her so mu chapter. This? Yaoer. Then my size. Don't you like it? All men cared a lot about their size. Of course, Situ Yele, who was strong and handsome, was no exception. Satisfied? Not satisfied. Let me think. Feng Zhiyao intentionally swung her little hand, as if it was in pain. Therefore, Situ Yele, who was smart enough to love her, immediately understood and helplessly smiled. He helped her gently rub her slender arm, and naturally took the other arm for himself to rub as well. Feng Zhiyao felt like a queen that was enjoying the care and attention of beautiful men. She was in an extremely good mood, the corner of her lips slightly raised as she looked around, her beautiful eyes fluttering with unconcealable brilliance. Getting rid of one is one, getting rid of two is a pair. Not bad, it's very comfortable. Feng Zhiyao's face blossomed into a smile, like a warm March after sun, warm to the heart. Eldest miss, dinner is ready. Ziyun covered her mouth and laughed. She suddenly felt that the eldest young mistress and these two young masters, no matter whi chapter 1 they were extremely compatible. Since it's ready, let's eat together. However, the two of you should first chapter arrange your clothes. Feng Zhiyao knew that what she had done was overboard, and the tone of her voice became softer. Yaoer, your hands aren't sore anymore, right? Sita Yele too chaptered her arm that was as white jade and was immediately startled. He wished that he could immediately roll in the bed with her. I'm not jealous anymore. Why are you looking at me like that? When Feng Zhiyao saw him blatantly revealing a fiery gaze, she knew what he wanted to do. Thus, she rolled her eyes, telling him to restrain himself. No. No. Ha. Sita Yele thought that it was dinner time, so he forced out a few dry laughs to cover up his embarrassment. Yaoer, are you tired? Helan Qi held Feng Zhiyao's hand and asked softly. No, not tired. Why don't you go back and chapter arrange your clothes? Feng Zhiyao shook her head and laughed. Suddenly, was there some sort of plot behind the two of them treating him with su-chapter gentleness? For the time being, she could not care less. As the emperor was big, it was better if she ate her fill before she had the strength to pounce on the pretty boy. Just use inner force to dry it. Sita Yele frowned, if not for Yaoer, he would have already attacked him. Now, other than frowning, he could not blame anyone else. Helan also had the same intention, as he nodded his head in agreement. During dinner, the two of them gave her food to eat, one on EA chapter's side, causing her to raise her eyebrows. Did they think that she was Zhu Beiji's reincarnation? She actually wanted to eat So Mu chapter, so she cleverly split the rice in the bowl into two halves and poured one of them down the bowl. You guys should eat more. I'm already full. Feng Zhiyao laughed. Yaoer, where are you going now? Helan Qi could sense that there was something wrong with Feng Zhiyao's expression, or should he say, the light in her eyes flickered. In short, he felt that there was something wrong with her. What am I thinking? Feng Zhiyao pouted. Really? Sita Yele also felt that she had a problem. Was she really full after eating just a little? There really isn't a member of the embroidered uniform sect. Don't keep pressing me, as if I'm going to be interrogated in the 3 halls. No. Feng Zhiyao was very unhappy. Eldest miss, the old master has come. Feng Wucai walked over quickly. What's Dad doing coming to see me at this time? Feng Zhiyao was startled, then she remembered that the two of them were eating at her place. What should she say later? Yaoer, how come they are also here? Feng Wucai asked curiously after seeing them greet him. Father, they are my friends. They only came to Begonia Garden to eat because they thought that Ziyun had good culinary skills. Feng Zhiyao walked in front of Feng Wucai with small steps and said coquettishly. Is that so? Feng Wucai secretly laughed, thinking that Yaoer was truly a girl that could not be stopped. However, this was also good, since after becoming a princess, she would marry her relatives far away. Yes. Feng Zhiyao quickly nodded her head. I believe Yaoer has already told the two of you about her being conferred as a princess, right? Feng Wucai caressed his beard and laughed. As he spoke, he observed their reactions. Master, my heart towards Yaoer, the heaven and earth can be seen, and the sun and moon can be seen. So don't worry, no matter what, I won't let Yaoer marry into another country. Situ Yele immediately continued the conversation, trying his best to express his attitude. Master, I respect Yaoer's decision. Helan Qi looked at Feng Zhiyao and sighed. He knew that even though Feng Zhiyao looked weak on the outside, she was actually a black-hearted person. She would definitely not do something that would cause her to suffer a loss. Feng Zhiyao was slightly stunned when she heard Helan's words. However, she was mostly moved, he was accepting of her, and he was trying to get to know her. This was very good. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao smiled. Dad, don't let your thoughts run wild. It's already so late, you should hurry up and rest. Tomorrow morning, you still have to go to the morning court. Feng Zhiyao comforted him, thinking that Father Feng's worries were not without reason, but she would think of ways to avoid them. Well, what about them? You wouldn't be living in your begonia garden, right? Feng Wucai smiled as he ridiculed, a profound light quickly flashed past his eyes. It seemed that he wanted to chapter-arrange the guards of Prime Minister's mansion into a bat chapter of death soldiers, and not just anyone could come to his Prime Minister's mansion. Father, what are you thinking about? It won't happen, they've already finished eating, so of course they'll leave together with you. Feng Zhiyao looked at Situ Yele and Helan Qi, and turned to Feng Wucai and said, Yaoer, I shall take my leave now. Helan didn't want to leave any bad impression on his future father-in-law, so he stood up and said, Yaoer, I have to leave too. You should rest earlier. Situ Yele's elegant and persistent handkir chapterif moistened her chapteriks as she stood up and said. In reality, none of them wanted to leave so quickly. However, since they wanted to leave a good impression on their future father-in-law, they could only reluctantly leave. Dad, take care. Feng Zhiyao said as she sent them to the entrance of Begonia Garden, full of smiles. Amen, Yaoer, remember to wake up early tomorrow morning. After Feng Wucai finished speaking, he walked away together with Helan. Feng Zhiyao later on thought that they would definitely think of a way to return to Begonia Garden even if they left their bedroll there. Eldest miss, do you want to take a bath? Ziyun asked with a smile. No, not today. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. Feng Zhiyao waited for Ziyun to sleep before chapter-arranging into a night attire. Just as she was about to fly out of the Begonia Garden, he saw a black-clothed Father Feng appearing on the short wall. Yaoer, who are you meeting? Feng Wucai asked. Fortunately, he had taken the initiative, and chapter-arranged all the guards around Begonia Garden to the Feng family warriors. Didn't I feel that I ate too mu chapter and came out to take a stroll? Feng Zhiyao pulled down the black veil over her face and laughed awkwardly. Yaoer, stop bullshitting, you are the young miss of the Prime Minister's mansion, EA chapter, and every word of yours represent the Feng residence. Daddy does not wish for you to be like Chilnger, and do the ugly things of getting pregnant first. Even though Feng Wucai really wanted to hug his grandson, he didn't want the chapteril to have already been born without a marriage. Therefore, at the moment, Feng Wucai was stern, his eyes sharp. Father. How can I be like Feng Zhiqiang? You have to be at ease for 100. In terms of security, I will take care of it. She didn't dare say that she did not want a chapteriled. If she said that, Father Feng would definitely be angered to death. However, when Feng Wucai heard that she would take care of her safety measures, the corner of his mouth twitch-chaptered for a long time. This girl was forever shocking, making him feel extremely helpless. It's good that you know what you're doing. Hurry back to your room and go to sleep. Feng Wucai waved his hand towards Feng Zhiyao. Understood, father. Feng Zhiyao returned unwillingly. Looking at Feng Zhiyao's dark figure, the corner of Feng Wucai's mouth lifted into a doting smile, and thought to himself, Daddy is doing this for your own good. If you go out so late at night, Daddy will really worry about you. It was another cloudless, warm morning. Due to Father Feng's orders last night, Feng Zhiyao woke up a long time ago after being called by Zi Yun. Eldest miss, quickly go to the lobby to thank us. It was the butler's voice. He was now standing by the door, waiting with a smile on his face. Seeing Feng Zhiyao dressed in a crimson yen dress, he immediately cupped his hands and smiled, "Congratulations, First Mississippi. She has been conferred the title of a princess by the emperor. Now that the emperor's reward has been delivered to the front hall, the lord wants you to hurry over to receive the imperial edict." "All right," Feng Zhiyao said with a sweet smile. So Feng Zhiyao brought Zi Yun and the butler to the hall. When Feng Zhiyao accepted the decree to thank her, all the aunts in the family congratulated her. Only third concubine was so angry that she gritted her teeth with a face full of displeasure. Feng Wucai and Feng Zhiyao both did not expect that the one who would pass down the decree would actually be Xianyuan Haohan himself. When Feng Zhiyao personally saw him out and passed by the lotus pond, he stopped. He held her hand and asked suspiciously, "Girl, why did you become the foster daughter of my royal father?" He could not understand, in just a few days of effort, how did the girl suddenly become his royal sister? Feng Zhiyao told him everything that happened yesterday, causing his brows to knit tightly together. "That's the way it is." Feng Zhiyao laughed, "Why aren't you happy? I have become your royal sister." Hee hee. Unexpectedly, his long and clean fingertip slid across her chapterique, and raised his hand to stroke the hair at her temples. As if it was a burning hot strand of hair that followed his finger to suddenly freeze on her chapterique. "If it's royal sister, then how am I going to be together with you in the future?" Together? His heart began to a-chapter and pin-chapter. Ugh, Feng Zhiyao smiled but did not speak. Xianyuan Haohan only looked at her with a smile without speaking a word, but his eyes were filled with a lingering look. She saw that his smile was a little weird, and was bored to death. When she saw Zi Yun beside her with a red face and a smile, her heart suddenly lit up, as if her face was on fire, and her ears were on fire. "Why are you so shy right now?" Xianyuan Haohan's cold voice swept past her ears. When Feng Zhiyao thought of the palace maids and unichapters standing at his side, she hurriedly tried to retract her hand and anxiously said, "Don't." The corners of Xianyuan Haohan's usually cold eyes suddenly filled with a hint of a smile. However, his smile grew wider and wider. "What are you afraid of?" Feng Zhiyao turned her head to look. Unknowingly, Zi Yun and the others had already retreated 5 kilometers away, and were standing with their backs facing away from them. Xianyuan Haohan pulled her hand and stood up, gently pulling her into his embrace. She was mesmerized by the fragrant aroma of dragon saliva in his clothes, the cool, pleasant smell of mint, and the familiar, strong smell of adult men on him. His breath was warm on his neck and had a tinge of moist warmth to it. It was as if he was wearing only light clothes to cool off during the summer. Beside him, the branch chapters of the begonia were blooming with red spots that looked like they were ready to spit on stamens. Xianyuan Haohan quietly embraced her as his heart raced. The days were warm, and the chapterary blossoms flew in the air, hazy like smoke. The gentle breeze blew those light and thin petals, making them slightly bulge up like the smiling chapteriques of a young girl. The sound of the wind rustling through the leaves was like a very intimate whisper. The voice was so far away, as if it were calling to her from the other side of the river. Although she was bold and unhurried, she only felt a soft spot from her palm spreading to her entire body. Her mind was blank, but her heart was filled with joy. "I'm not afraid." Feng Zhiyao's body froze for no reason, and the oppressive aura of Xianyuan Haohan grew stronger and stronger. "Are you really not afraid?" Xianyuan Haohan's arms tightened as he looked at her eyes that were deep as the ocean, unable to see the bottom. Feng Zhiyao was surrounded by a wave of pressure, her head was slowly moving backwards. The Xianyuan Haohan in this state made her feel unfamiliar, her entire body was releasing a plundering domineering aura, as though she was going to eat her alive. "You? Why are you looking at me like that?" She slowly raised her eyes and looked straight at the vortex in Xianyuan Haohan's pupils. It was so deep that it seemed like there was some sort of magic that was attracting her and she was unable to move. As Xianyuan Haohan looked at her alluring, pink, and chapterary lips, the thirst in her heart grew even stronger. So what if you're a royal sister? His hands took advantage of the opportunity to seize her and pull her into his embrace. His warm lips unhesitatingly covered that crimson red. Even if it was a swamp, he was still willing to sink into it. Xianyuan Haohan's warm lips gently caressed Feng Zhiyao's lips that were as tender as a rose. The tip of her tongue moved about as she drew the outline of her lips, again and again, with a sweet allure. I'll let you off today. If you have the ability to obtain the title of princess, then this king will have the ability to remove your title of princess. When the kiss was over, he whispered in her ear. After he brought the servantess away, Feng Zhiyao slowly came back to reality. He had just said that he would get rid of her title of princess in the future. Eldest Mississippi Ugh. Princess. Seeing Feng Zhiyao in a daze, Ziyun called out to her softly from behind. Ziyun, is there something you need? Feng Zhiyao turned and saw Ziyun calling out to her with her mouth wide open, and asked. Your servant doesn't know if I should call you eldest miss or princess now. Ziyun was embarrassed. You can't abandon your manners. Call me princess. Transmigrating to become a princess was not a bad habit either. When Feng Zhiyao went to Nian's study again, Feng Wucai was playing with the zither. It was the first time she had heard Feng Wucai playing with the zither. Father, Feng Zhiyao stood at the door and lightly called out. Yaoer, don't get too close to those princes or else disaster will descend upon you and even father will not be able to save you. Feng Wucai did not raise her head, but continued to play the song, Pure Spring Willow Scream. Dad, I'm not that close to them. Feng Zhiyao felt that she had been wronged. Those princes, she did not dare to provoke. That's for the best. Anyway, your father doesn't want you to get involved in the struggles between the princes. It was very obvious that someone had reported to Feng Wucai about her hug and kiss earlier. Father, I understand. If you have nothing else, I will return to the begonia garden first. Feng Zhiyao said indifferently. Yes. Feng Wucai waved his hands, indicating that she should take her leave. Right, the imperial edict just said that the emperor has bestowed Rising Sun Villa upon you to be the princess mansion. When do you want to move in? The moment Feng Wucai saw her turn around, he suddenly called out to her. You can move it when you want, I'm not in a rush. Feng Zhiyao said blandly. She could not move over. If she went there, those earth ape rats would definitely not let her go. She decided to stay in Begonia Garden obediently. After all, based on her father's attitude, he would definitely send experts to protect her Begonia Garden. All right. Then you can leave now. Feng Wucai was satisfied with the answer, and laughed. For rainy days had passed. These past few nights were rather quiet. The Earth Dragoons really hadn't appeared. However, since they did not appear, Feng Zhiyao felt that her days were boring. Thus, on the fifth day, the weather just so happened to be very good. The sun was bright and it was a perfect day for a trip. Early in the morning, Feng Zhiyao had already put on a purple beautiful dress with golden butterfly patterns on it. The dress was newly made and it was gorgeous. Feng Zhiyao said that she looked good in it. Feng Zhiyao thought it was beautiful too and wore it. Princess, where are we going? In the carriage, Ziyun asked with a smile on her face. Naturally, I'm going to inspect the business of First Supratorrent of Xianyang. Is it as business as I imagined? Feng Zhiyao casually replied. However, Feng Zhiyao still felt a bit of unease in her heart, especially since the imperial guards were chaptering house by house. Ziyun, have you investigated clearly? Who are these imperial guards looking for? Feng Zhiyao asked. It is said that the crown prince is looking for a beautiful young man called Rueyu. It is said that she is incredibly beautiful. Ziyun asked what happened just now. beautiful youth? The crown prince was looking for him. Could it be the red-clothed youth that Uncle Xian saved last time? Could it be that the youth in white was really the crown prince's catamite? Princess, what's wrong? Ziyun looked at the dumbstruck Feng Zhiyao, and waved her hand in front of her eyes. Stop swaying so much chapter that I want to doze off. Feng Zhiyao yawned lazily. Yes. Oh. Ziyun thus kept quiet. That's right, why don't we go to the residence bestowed upon me by the emperor? Feng Zhiyao had actually wanted to go to the store to see the chapterican soup business, but she suddenly didn't want to meet Xianyuan Haoyu, so she chapteranged her mind. Since the weather was good today, she might as well go and take a look. Princess, there are too many people and the carriage is not easy to pass. Can you take a detour to the back street of the market? The COA chapterman, Wan Sanzi, who was driving the carriage, asked. The carriage moved slowly. He asked Feng Zhiyao to chapterange the route. All right. Go around it. Feng Zhiyao nodded. She was also not willing to get too close to the crowd. Furthermore, the distance from here to the manor was not too far. Furthermore, the imperial guards were looking for her, so she was too lazy to cause any trouble. The carriage turned into another street with very few pedestrians. The noise of the market gradually died down, and only the footsteps of a few pedestrians could be heard. Only then did Feng Zhiyao gently lift up the curtains and look outside, to see a masked old man sitting on the stone steps at the side of the street. It was so hot that he was almost hit by the heat. He didn't even have the strength to shout out. She felt pity in her heart, and felt sympathy for him as she said, "Go and buy that old man's mask. It's so hot, you'll have to pity him." After saying that, Feng Zhiyao felt that when she was in the ancient realm, she was no longer the cold and emotionless Meishi, so she lightly shook her head and sighed. Ziyun acknowledged, then called the carriage and jumped down, walking towards the old man. Feng Zhiyao lowered the curtain and said, "Drive the carriage to the side of the road and wait. Don't block the way." Wan Sanzi immediately drove the horse carriage to the alleyway's entrance, and just as he was about to drive to the alleyway's entrance, he exclaimed, "Who is it?" With a few sounds of weapons clashing, the carriage's curtain was opened with a huff, and before Feng Zhiyao could react, a bright, short blade was placed on her slender neck. "Take a ride to the northern suburbs, or I'll kill her." The man threatened Wan Sanzi fiercely. Brother ran by. Feng Zhiyao's body trembled, and she shouted out involuntarily in shock. Didn't he go to the Xiliang kingdom with Su Mayan? The person turned his head in disbelief, staring at her blankly. His face was filled with shock that could not be hidden, and even the blade in his hand had fallen. Just as he was in a daze, Wan Sanzi suddenly threw out the short blade he was holding with his backhand, and the two immediately started fighting in the narrow carriage. "Stop!" Feng Zhiyao growled. The two of them stopped at the same time. Feng Zhiyao frowned and was about to say something, when she heard Ziyun's little voice sound out, "Princess, we have bought all of them." She gave Wan Sanzi a meaningful glance, and said in a low voice, "Take her away." Wan Sanzi nodded his head, then immediately retreated. Feng Zhiyao picked up the dagger and gave it to Mo Ranbai. She then said calmly, "Hide in the carriage." Outside the carriage, Wan Sanzi smiled at Ziyun. "Ziyun, the princess said that she wants to eat Zhang Xingji's plum blossom sugar. You go and buy 2 bags first, I will drive Miss back home first." Ziyun did not hesitate to follow the order, handing the wrapped-up noodle to Wan Sanzi, then he turned and left. "Brother Ranbai, you're injured." Feng Zhiyao frowned when she saw Mo Ranbai's arm that seemed to have been shot by an arrow of some sort, dripping with blood. "Yes." Mo Ranbai nodded. His face did not have any expression, and just remained calm. "Wan Sanzi, I can't go to the other villa today. Find an inn nearby and settle down." Feng Zhiyao instructed Wan Sanzi. After Wan Sanzi received the order, he immediately drove the horse carriage towards the other direction. Brother Ranbai, the person the imperial guards were chaptering for just now was. "Is that you?" Feng Zhiyao asked. she still felt that the possibility of this happening was high. As for seer chaptering for catamites, it was probably an excuse. Mo Ranbai did not reply. Instead, he picked up the teacup that Feng Zhiyao had drunk before and gulped down a few cups of tea. Feng Zhiyao secretly laughed. He was not courteous at all. So you agree? Feng Zhiyao laughed. As expected, this beautiful man had a story, and as for the beautiful man who had a story, she was even more interested. Thank you for today's matter. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. Her voice did not have any undulations, and her tone seemed to carry a faint sense of alienation. Brother Ranbai, I will help you chapter-arrange your appearance first. Otherwise, if those people seer chapter the inn and find you, you will be in trouble. Feng Zhiyao frowned and said. Even though this beautiful guy was indifferent, when Beitang Ziqian wanted to use the black jade fan to bully her, it was still with the help of the beautiful guy in front of her. No matter what, she would definitely help him get through this time. As for why he would become the target of a large number of the Imperial Guard's seer chapters, that was not what Feng Zhiyao wanted to investigate, because she believed that everyone had their own secrets. Yes, he said lightly. Just as the two of them were talking, they suddenly heard Wan Sanzi's surprised shout and the carriage suddenly stopped. Feng Zhiyao was caught off guard and almost knocked into the wall. Luckily Mo Ranbai pulled her back in time. Sir, what are you doing? Why are you stopping my carriage? Wan Sanzi asked loudly on purpose. Feng Zhiyao looked through the gaps of the carriage and saw a group of Imperial Guards wearing bright and colorful clothes standing in front of the carriage. Before Wan Sanzi could even finish speaking, they had already surrounded the carriage. Mo Ranbai took out his short blade and was about to fight to the death with it, but he was stopped by Feng Zhiyao. At this moment, the people surrounding the carriage opened up a path for them. A commander of the Imperial Guards was riding his horse forward. Wan Sanzi bellowed, Master, this is Princess Lianyan's carriage. What are you all doing? He did not come with good intentions. There was still a person on the princess carriage of unknown origin. If there was any situation, he could only bring the princess out with him. The commander ignored him, and looked at the carriage with the curtain tightly shut, and said coldly, So what if you're a princess? Seer chapter the train for me. Immediately, several Imperial Guards dismounted their horses and approach-chaptered the carriage. Stop, this carriage is my Princess Lianyan, and it is also the legitimate daughter. How can we let him casually seer chapter us? Wan Sanzi anxiously blocked in front of the curtain. Bastard, we are here to capture a spy from the enemy countries. We clearly saw him running into this alley, yet your carriage was stopped here. Could it be that the spy was here to support him? The commander asked angrily. Wan Sanzi, let him investigate. Feng Zhiyao's beautiful voice sounded out. The curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Feng Zhiyao walked out. The dazzling sunlight shone down on her body, as if it was plated with a gold light. The gentleness was filled with holiness, like the rainbow in the sky. It was extremely beautiful. I am a Princess Lianyan under the title of Emperor. How can I have anything to do with the enemy nation's spy? All of you can go and seer chapter. But don't mess up my things. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, she jumped down from the carriage. Two Imperial Guards climbed onto the carriage and parted the curtains. The interior of the carriage was rather simple, and it was obvious at a glance that there was only a single soft chapter air and a small cabinet that could not be used to hide people. The two looked around, got out of the carriage, and went in front of the commander to report, Sir, there's no one inside. The commander was startled, then laughed, A misunderstanding, disturbed Princess Lianyan, please forgive me. He naturally heard that the emperor had adopted a foster daughter a few days ago, but he didn't expect that the person in front of him was actually this person. Feng Zhiyao chapteruckled, Of course, you guys are also responsible. How could I blame you? The commander saw that she was tolerant, her bearing was natural, and he praised her in his heart. This girl was indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder she was able to make the emperor personally bestow the title of Princess Lianyan upon her, allowing her to join the Imperial Jade Butterfly. With his order, a group of people quickly retreated. As expected of the well-trained Nan Shao's imperial guards. When they left, Wan Sanzi broke out in a cold sweat because of what happened just now. Princess, luckily you're smart, otherwise, you'd be in big trouble today, otherwise, how would the old master explain himself? Wanzi, I didn't expect you to know some martial arts, I really can't see through you. Hehe, you did very well just now. Seeing that the danger was resolved, Feng Zhiyao laughed and ridiculed. He only knows the basics. Wan Sanzi blushed from embarrassment. He was honest and loyal, maybe he was not used to being praised by others. To be modest is a good thing. Quickly find an inn and settle him down. Feng Zhiyao instructed with a smile. All right. Wan Sanzi nodded, then asked, where's the young master? Over there. Feng Zhiyao pointed to the bottom of the carriage. Brother Ranbai, come out. She called out tenderly. Then, a wooden board fell from the bottom of the carriage, followed by a person. It was Mo Ranbai. When Mo Ranbai once again entered the carriage, Feng Zhiyao did not say a word and quietly sized him up. Why are you looking at me like that? When had Mo Ranbai ever been looked down upon by a young lady for so long? Therefore, at that time, his handsome face was blushing red as he asked. I was thinking, why is the blood on your arm suddenly stopped bleeding? And you didn't use any gold sore medicine just now. This was what made Feng Zhiyao very curious. If you seal off the acupoints there, the natural blood will solidify. Mo Ranbai lightly sighed and said. I'll help you bandage it. In the end, Feng Zhiyao's heart chaptered for the beautiful man who was injured. She immediately tore a corner of her skirt and wrapped it around him, forming a beautiful bow. This bow tie made Mo Ranbai's handsome face turn black. Stop looking, isn't this really pretty? I'm really different from others when I wear the butterfly knot. Feng Zhiyao smiled at him. Then, Feng Zhiyao picked up the tea leaves from the teacup and rubbed it with her palm. She rubbed the juice and carefully rubbed it on Mo Ranbai's handsome face, and very quickly, the miraculous moment that had happened, made Mo Ranbai's face look much more ordinary. Even if we were to walk in front of that commander, he might not be able to recognize Su chapter of face. Feng Zhiyao was satisfied with her disguised tea chapternique, and smiled. In the entire process, other than Mo Ranbai, who was not used to her small hands chaptering him, he occasionally furrowed his brows and was basically very cooperative. Feng Zhiyao purposely let Wan Sanzi find a small inn. It was not under the three families, so it was natural that the room would be chapter-reap. After getting a room on the second floor, Feng Zhiyao let Wan Sanzi go back first. She told him that she would return to the Prime Minister's mansion later. Brother Ranbai, there's only you and me here, can you tell me why you didn't go with Su Mayan to Western Lion City? She did not want to know about the Imperial Guard's chaptering for him throughout the Xianyang city, but she still asked about this matter out of curiosity. I want something that belongs to me. Mo Ranbai said as he wiped his face with the wet handkerchief chapterreef. That is why you were able to return to the Nan Shao. That is to say, even Su Mayan does not know about this? Feng Zhiyao guessed boldly. Yes. He replied lightly. Brother Ranbai, Mo Ranbai wanted to drink his tea, but when he heard the footsteps outside the door, he immediately chaptered out and covered Feng Zhiyao's fragrant chapterary lips. Feng Zhiyao's lips were suddenly covered by Mo Ranbai's slender and white hand, and she could feel the warmth from his palm. Whi chapter was just in chapters away, so close that she could smell the faint scent of lavender on his body. In an instant, 2 red clouds swiftly flew onto her small, white, and smooth face. Ugh, I'm sorry. Mo Ranbai felt that he went overboard and immediately retracted his hand, and apologized with a red and handsome face. So it was just a false alarm, it was the waiter who brought them the bath water. Seeing him apologize, Feng Zhiyao immediately laughed unnaturally. brother ran by, there's no need to apologize, it's not like we're really fine. Wasn't it just his palm covering her small mouth? Was there even a need for him to apologize? But this also showed that brother Ranbai was very pure. She had a very good impression of Su chapter, a cute and pure beautiful man. Oh yeah, the temperature of the bath water is about the same. Hurry up and bathe. I'll go out first. Although Feng Zhiyao really wanted to see a pretty boy come out of the bathroom, she didn't want to scare Mo Ranbai. Thus, she left Mo Ranbai's room feeling extremely unwilling. After waiting on the corridor for around an hour, Mo Ranbai finally opened the door. Zhiyao, I'm done bathing. Come in. Mo Ranbai was dressed in a loose white crepe robe with ink-flowing clouds pattern, and a few pink chapterary blossoms were sewn out from the sleeves. They were luxurious and elegant with a refreshing sweetness after the rain, just like his temperament. His lips hung a faint smile, his elegant figure was dazzling, shaking Feng Zhiyao's small heart so mu chapter that her heart was thumping hard. Brother Ranbai, you still look good in white. Feng Zhiyao laughed. Yeah, I think so too. Hearing that, Mo Ranbai was startled, he squinted his eyes, but his face still had a faint expression. Brother Ranbai, I will help you chapter-arrange your appearance. This way, if the Imperial Guards come Seer chapter again, you won't have to hide anymore. Feng Zhiyao thought that she couldn't possibly accompany him 24 hours a day, right? Alright, sorry for the trouble. Mo Ranbai said indifferently. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao walked towards him, and still used the wet tea leaves to rub on his face. Previously, when they were in the car, the atmosphere was tense, but now that he had relaxed, his eyes could just happen to see the beautiful scenery on Feng Zhiyao's chapterist. Hey, brother Ranbai, can you cooperate with me a little, don't keep moving around? If I chapter-arrange your appearance to an ugly one later, you're not allowed to criticize me. Feng Zhiyao was annoyed. Previously, this man was very cooperative, but now he was like a chapter-illed suffering from ADHD. How could he not cooperate with her obediently? This was the first time Mo Ranbai was incoherent. Don't say anything about me. Be obedient and don't move. Feng Zhiyao's slender and jade-like fingers painted on his fair and handsome face, drawing line after line, extremely detailed and detailed. Due to her slender fingers too chaptering him, it brought about a soft and refreshing feeling. Shockingly, with his rationality, he pushed her away. Feng Zhiyao was so angry that she did not flirt with him. Why was he using so mu chapter strength to push her away? After pushing her away, Mo Ranbai immediately regretted it and immediately helped her up. Zhiyao, right. I'm sorry. This was the first time in his life that he was apologizing to a girl. My little PP fell so mu chapter it hurt. Mo Ranbai, I saved you so mu chapter but you almost broke me into a bone. What if I fall and become a cripple? Humph. Feng Zhiyao rubbed her hurting butt, she was so angry that blood almost splashed onto her butt. He shouldn't be crippled from the fall, right? He did not feel that he had used mu chapter's strength. If you fall and become crippled, I will support you for the rest of your life. Mo Ranbai's face was gloomy as he promised. Humph, it's true that it isn't damaged from the fall, but you can take care of it yourself after this. I'm done with it. Feng Zhiyao was also a temperamental chapter-illed, but this, she saw his expression, was extremely unwilling, and immediately decided to leave him alone, and prepared to leave. Zhiyao, I was wrong, I won't push you to the ground in the future. Mo Ranbai felt guilty, thinking that his mistake was outrageous. Thinking that a man could do something, or not, he stood up, straightened his back, and blocked her path. Damn, and beyond? What you want is beautiful. If I say no, then no. When Feng Zhiyao thought about the pain coming from her butt, she almost wanted to kill him. It was not on account of him being a handsome man, she really wanted to give him a push as well. Zhiyao, is that place where your butt hurts? Can I give you medicine? Mo Ranbai was conflicted. He apologized to her mostly in his heart, so he carefully asked her. You don't need to apply the medicine. Let go. Feng Zhiyao roared at him. Then. All right then, before you leave, help me chapter arrange my appearance first. Mo Ranbai himself did not know how to disguise, so he replied her. I was in a good mood before, but now I'm in a bad mood. How about this, if you can make me feel good, then I'll consider it. Feng Zhiyao swung her hand, sat on the chapter supported her chapterique with one hand, and looked coldly at him. This? Mo Ranbai was in a difficult situation. What is this? Say something that makes me happy, or I'll go. Feng Zhiyao, this little girl was deliberately making things difficult for him. No. You can go. Mo Ranbai shook his head and gave up. Sigh, you're too honest. Alright, I'll just help you. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. Forget it, forget it. After he finished chapter arranging his appearance. Zhiyao, the last time you planted a sex drug, was it on purpose? Mo Ranbai suddenly asked. These words caught Feng Zhiyao off guard and made her face turn red. What? How could that be? Feng Zhiyao did not expect him to grab hold of this weak point, and immediately refused to admit it. Is that so? Mo Ranbai did not believe it. When he first saw her, her eyes revealed a burning look, and he still felt goosebumps whenever he thought about it. Mn, of course, you and I have only just met, why would I give you that sex drug? Naturally, I did it for Su Mayan. Feng Zhiyao smiled slightly, she was shocked in her heart. How did this man know everything? You like Su Mayan? Mo Ranbai did not know why he suddenly asked this question. I should like it. Feng Zhiyao admitted it and nodded. She missed Su Mayan a little, and did not know when he would return. Why are you so concerned about whether I like Su Mayan or not? Could it be that you fell in love with me at first sight, brother Ranbai? Feng Zhiyao laughed and teased. No, that's not it. Mo Ranbai shook his head. Love at first sight. On the other hand, she was already Su Mayan's woman, how could he get involved with her? Seeing him deny it, Feng Zhiyao felt a little disappointed in her heart. Originally, beautiful men were not interested in her, but she had a good impression of this fresh and intoxicating beautiful man, and wanted to push him down, but this man was too smart. If she drugged him, it would only be a loss. Forget it, forget it. It was her. After all, it was hers, not hers. A forcefully twisted melon was not sweet. It's getting late, I should go back. Feng Zhiyao looked at the sky outside the window and said, it was time to leave. The beautiful man did not have her in his heart, and she did not want to stay any longer, so she was tired of it. Oh right, just now you called yourself, this palace, in front of the commanders of the Imperial Guards, what does that mean? Could it be that you are the Princess Lianyan who was recently bestowed the title of Emperor of the Nan Shao? He asked doubtfully. Ah, this is the longest sentence you've said since I've met you. Yes, I am Princess Lianyan. Feng Zhiyao laughed. Not mu chapter. Mo Ranbai shook his head. I think it's good, so be it. Ah, if we really have to go back, then I'll take my leave. Feng Zhiyao thought that she should return quickly. Otherwise, if she returned too late, Father Feng would definitely talk about her. Alright, then I'll send you back. Mo Ranbai thought that he had disguised himself, and would not be recognized by the Imperial Guards, and suggested. No need, I can do it myself. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. She had finally managed to save him, why would she put him in danger? Alright, be careful along the way. Mo Ranbai chaptered her back as she walked further and further away. It was already dark and windy after dinner. The stars were all over the sky and the fragrance of the lotus was pleasant. The lakeside is lush with wild grass, narcissus, water kite and calamus, rustling against the wind, a few waterfowl, white cranes play in it. The night wind blew gently, bringing with it a faint chapterill. It was almost the end of October, and in a few days, Su Mian should be back in the Nanshao. Feng Sais invited Feng Zhiyao to view the moon recite a poem together. Feng Zhiyao originally did not want to go, but after thinking that Zi Yun, the little girl by her side, might have something to play with, she brought along the unwilling Zi Yun, and headed in the direction of the Jusong Hall. Yaoer, you're here. This bad girl is here too. Feng Sais gritted his teeth as if he wanted to tell Zi Yun something. Why does Brother Sais look at Zi Yun like that? Could it be that you, Feng Zhiyao deliberately wanted to say something, but stopped herself. Yaoer. What are you talking about? Feng Sais raised his eyebrows, turned his head, and leisurely sat down. No one knew whether he was sulking or just what chaptering the moon. Brother Sais. Why did you ask me out to admire the moon when I recited a poem? Why did I feel that the moon tonight is not round at all? Feng Zhiyao laughed and teased. I got something rare for you to see. Feng Sais thought that he was just angry at Zi Yun, so he did not want to go against Yaoer. Just what is it? Feng Zhiyao asked curiously. Feng Sais then took out a red wooden chapterist from her room. What treasure? It looks very mysterious. Seeing how mysterious he looked, Feng Zhiyao laughed and teased him. When she opened the mahogany box, Feng Zhiyao was immediately overjoyed when she saw it. This was a Western bell. Brother Sais, where did you get this from? Seeing this, Feng Zhiyao felt that her hope of returning to the modern era was very high. Hence, she anxiously pulled on Feng Sais's sleeves and asked. This was the first time Zi Yun saw her young miss being so excited. Zhiyao, do you know what this is? Feng Sais frowned, and asked while staring at her. Ugh, I read about it in a very ancient book. This item is called a bell, it has an hour hand, and a minute hand, it is a type of precise timing tool. It's just that Yaoer doesn't know where you got this strange item from, how did you get it? Feng Zhiyao was very curious as to how Feng Sais obtained it, so he asked him. Half a month ago, on my way back, it was by the sea, I met a man with blonde hair. His eyes were dark blue, his hair was thicker, his bones were not protruding, his jaw was flat, and his nose was narrow and tall. Maybe he came from overseas and said something that I didn't understand. I gave him some silver and he gave me this weird thing. As Feng Sais spoke, he immersed himself into his own memories. Hearing Feng Sais's description, Feng Zhiyao felt that the golden-haired man he met was definitely a citizen of another country. Was there a country like England in this world? Yaoer, where is that ancient book of yours? Feng Sais seemed to have thought of something, and asked. Ancient book? I've long lost it. Feng Zhiyao stuck out her tongue at him cutely. Zi Yun, don't just stand there. Sit. Feng Zhiyao instructed Zi Yun and pointed to the stone chapter beside her. Princess, your humble servant's status is low, you can't do that. Although Zi Yun was moved by her concern, she still rejected him. All right, you can sit down when you're tired of standing. Feng Zhiyao said with a slight smile, as she fiddled with the ancient Western bell with one hand. Zi Yun, since the princess has ordered you to sit down, you should sit down. After Feng Sais finished speaking, he made a big tiger-like grimace towards Zi Yun, showing his teeth in a cute manner, making both Feng Zhiyao and Zi Yun laugh. Feng Zhiyao thought that there was hope for the two of them, but Zi Yun's identity was not simple, she was afraid that when the two of them were together, there would be someone who would cause trouble. Furthermore, with Zi Yun's background, maybe she would only be able to be Feng Sais's concubine, as it was truly a grievance to Zi Yun. After hearing what Feng Sais said, Zi Yun's little face immediately turned slightly red. Under Feng Zhiyao's persuasion, she sat down, but she did not dare raise her face, as she was afraid of seeing Feng Sais's handsome face that looked like he deserved a beating. Yaoer, your father doesn't seem to be too happy about you being conferred the title of princess. What are your thoughts? Feng Sais asked in a brotherly tone. Father will understand. This is also a way for me to protect myself. Feng Zhiyao had not forgotten about her disguise of being infected by an illness. With the Alchapterami book iron securities in her hands, she was afraid of nothing. Becoming the emperor's goddaughter, at least she could avoid Xianyuan Haoyu and Xianyuan Haohan. Needless to say, this was also a good thing. Brother Size, let me tell you, I saw Murong Chapterong yesterday afternoon near the Ningji Lake of the Imperial Palace. According to the Crown Prince, Murong Chapterong and you are from the same sect, is that true? Feng Zhiyao asked. Murong Chapterong is indeed a fellow disciple of mine, but his origin is very mysterious. He's my junior brother, and he hasn't even started training, and his light skill is the best. Moreover, his poison arts are invincible in the world. If you see him again, remember to hide away. That guy has a white snake on his body. If you get bitten by that white snake, you'll suffer. Feng Size's handsome face immediately chapteranged when he heard Feng Zhiyao mention his junior brother Murong Chapterong, and he shouted anxiously with fear in his eyes. Brother Size, is Murong Chapterong really that scary? Feng Zhiyao was really worried after he said this. Anyway, you have to be careful and not to provoke him. Moreover, his identity is a mystery, so up until now, I'm afraid only his deceased master knows of his origins. Feng Size frowned. Brother Size, Ziyun and I both feel that your light skill is already the best and fastest light skill, but there is still a faster one. Feng Zhiyao held her forehead and sighed. It seemed that she had to properly learn martial arts. That's right. Murong Chapterong is 17 years old, and there's no one who can match chapter him in the light skill now. It really makes me ashamed. Feng Size sighed. What? Murong Chapterong is only 1 year older than me? Feng Zhiyao thought of the Murong Chapterong she had met yesterday, and her heart was filled with doubts. Even my late master said that he was a prodigy who cultivated martial arts. However, I can't guess. Why did he appear in the Nanshao Palace after going to the western regions? Could it be that the sky is going to chapterange? Feng Size held his head with one hand and the cup of tea in his other hand as he exclaimed. Western regions? Are you saying that Murong Chapterong is from the western regions? Feng Zhiyao was very curious. It was said that the western regions had the most poisons in the place. She was an expert in making poisons, so she was naturally very curious about that mysterious place. I can't be sure. Weird, Yaoer, why are you so interested in Murong Chapterong? Don't tell me you're interested in him. Want to marry him? Feng Size asked curiously, why would he think that way? This was the first time that Feng Zhiyao had asked him about the strange man in Su chapter a detailed manner. It's not that. Brother Size, don't speak nonsense. That's right, Murong Chapterong was indeed a beautiful guy, but he was so mysterious, and she was also so damn curious. The so-called curiosity would kill a cat, and it just so happened that she was a cat, so she had been preparing for the past few days to go to the Imperial Palace to meet the old emperor, and meet Murong Demei and the evil man by chapterance. Yaoer, you had better not provoke Murong Chapterong. Because, people who provoked Murong Chapterong were the unluckiest. Brother Size, stop talking nonsense. How could I possibly offend him? However, he was a pretty boy, and his poison arts were so good as well. How could she not be curious, and compare notes with him to test out his poison arts? Not the best. Hearing her affirmation, Feng Size heaved a sigh of relief and laughed heartily. Brother Size, isn't that a poem? Why are we only chapter-adding now? Feng Zhiyao's gaze swept across Ziyun and Feng Size's faces. Princess, it's already late at night. Shouldn't you go back and rest? Ziyun lowered her head. During the day, she had joyously come to meet him, saying that master had something to ask of her, so she had to hurry over. She missed him a lot, but when she thought about her unlucky elder sister, her eyes dimmed down. Ah! So early. Feng Zhiyao was a little dispirited. Why would she go back so early? If it was in the modern world, she would be carrying out tasks at night, rolling in bed with a beautiful man, or going online. In short, she wouldn't be as relaxed as she was now. Yaoer, it must be because this girl is tired. Let's just wait for another day before we admire the crescent moon chapter ant, alright? Feng sighs looked at the night sky. It was indeed too late, so he decided to let them go back first. Alright then, brother sighs, we will be leaving first. You should go to bed early as well. Feng Zhiyao smiled lightly. After leaving the Jusong Hall, about half an hour later, they arrived at the begonia garden. Feng Zhiyao lamenting that the road was far away also showed how vast the Prime Minister's mansion's land area was. After Feng Zhiyao bathed and went to sleep, Ziyun returned to her room and quickly chapter-arranged into night clothes. Just as she was about to go out, she noticed the long breaths of many experts near Begonia Garden. Damn, she thought, she couldn't get out tonight. Thus, she went back to her ears in frustration, preparing to find an opportunity to meet Master tomorrow at Spring Yard. Forget about Ziyun who was inside the Begonia Garden, even the two outside could not come in. Helan Qi had completely cleared out all the petal poison S, and now that he had not seen the beauty for several days, he missed her a lot. He wanted to see her, but seeing that Begonia Garden was surrounded by martial arts experts, their martial arts must be even stronger than the guards, so he did not dare to act rashly. And it just so happened that Situ Yele came as well. Naturally, Situ Yele was also unable to go in and steal from him. WHI chapter was why he and him were both extremely depressed. Helan, it seems that Prime Minister Feng has invested quite a bit this time. Situ Yele took off his mask and laughed. Yeah, there's a possibility that a few of their martial arts are even above ours and yours, so it's even harder to go in at night to see Yaoer than to ascend to the heavens. Helan Qi couldn't help but sigh. He wanted to kiss his wife, how could it be so difficult? Sigh, why don't we go to Songha restaurant together for a drink? You will be treating today, what do you think? Situ Yele laughed. Let's go. Helan Qi had probably gone to sleep long ago when he thought about this. Since he couldn't see her at night, he could come see her during the day. The two of them looked at the direction of the Begonia Garden longingly, and just left with their toes two chaptering the ground. The next day, rain kept on falling. It was not suitable for people to travel, but Feng Zhiyao still wanted to go out. It was because she had dreamt of Li Jinran last night. At that time, he was lying in a pool of blood and his entire body was covered in blood. Princess, this rain might not stop anytime soon. Why don't you go to Jiu-In Temple to pray for your blessings another day? Ziyun disagreed. Ziyun, how about this, I'll go by myself. Feng Zhiyao said considerately as she saw Ziyun frowning. Alright, thank you princess. Ziyun frowned, she had to go to the spring yard to see Master. Yesterday, she delayed Master for so long, if she went today, she would be punished. Feng Zhiyao sat on the horse carriage, and on the way there, it started to drizzle. It was probably autumn already, and the wind blowing towards her face was a little chapterly. Feng Zhiyao pulled open the carriage's curtain, and took a glance at the scenery outside, and saw that she was already near Jiu-In Temple. The road was bumpy, and after traveling for Su chapter a long distance, the carriage even made Feng Zhiyao's butt hurt. Suddenly, a horse in front of the carriage raised its hooves, the carriage was kicked all over. Feng Zhiyao did not expect the horse to go berserk. As she was thinking about how to escape, Wan Sanzi's cry for help caused a wisp of white shadow to appear. Quickly and cleanly, he plucked out 2 P-chapter blossoms from the P-chapter tree nearby and infused his profound spirit chi into the horse's throat, heart and body, then aimed at EA-chapter other, aimed at the horse respectively, and shot out once more. Thus, the frenzied horse finally collapsed onto the ground with a long hiss, barely able to breathe. Thank you, young master, for saving my life. Wan Sanzi cupped his fists and thanked the white shadow. You're welcome. The white shadow only glanced at Feng Zhiyao who was walking out safely from the carriage and said coldly. Murong chapter Ong. Feng Zhiyao had thought that she had seen wrongly, it was actually him. You are. Obviously, Murong Chapterong had forgotten who she was. Damn, what a forgetful man. On that day, he had clearly seen her near the Ningji Lake in the Imperial Palace, but he had forgotten who she was. This is the newly bestowed Princess Lianyan by the Emperor. Wan Sanzi explained with a smile. Yes, last time you and I met in Ningji Lake, do you remember now? Feng Zhiyao laughed and asked, no matter what, he had saved her life. He did not know why the horse was so mad. Then why is the other horse good, and this one good? Was there something amiss? Is that so? Princess Lianyan. Murong Chapterong stood calmly and peacefully amidst the fragrance of the sunlight, her voice sounding like the crescent moon in the sky. Seeing that he seemed to recognize her, she gradually relaxed and used her hand to brush her hair that had been blown up by the wind. Yes. Feng Zhiyao acknowledged gently. Your horse was drugged. After Murong Chapterong finished, he mounted on his white horse and rode off, not even looking at Feng Zhiyao. Feng Zhiyao laughed self-deprecatingly, this beautiful man did not like him. It would be a little difficult for her to take him down. However, looking at his figure, it was likely that she would feel comfortable rolling around in the bed with him. No, she had to work hard, even though she had not succeeded in plundering the beautiful guy, she still had to work hard. When she thought of this, her mood improved again. Princess, there's only one horse in the carriage right now. Wan Sanzi was in a difficult situation, so he hesitated to speak. Sanzi, you don't need to investigate who did this. I have my own plans. Feng Zhiyao laughed, she had indeed done something to her, good, it was better to use a tooth for a tooth. Princess. After Wan Sanzi heard this, he was stunned for a long time. Buy a little donkey and ride back for the time being. I will ride my horse to Jiuyin Temple and pray for the good fortune. The rain has stopped long ago, so I will definitely return home safely. Feng Zhiyao turned his head and looked in the direction of the Jiuyin Temple, instructing Wan Sanzi. Yes, Princess. Wan Sanzi looked at her worriedly as he thought to himself, when did the princess learn to ride a horse? How could he not know? However, he did not ask any more questions. Instead, he walked towards a small village in front of them and bought a donkey from the villagers and rode it back to the village. Feng Zhiyao then rode on top of the remaining horse and waved her whip towards the opposite direction of Jiuyin Temple. She rushed all the way to Seoul Chapterace Manor, and finally arrived there at noon. Just as she was about to leave, she saw Li Mincan at the entrance. Yaoer, why did you come here on a horse? Li Mincan asked with concern, his face full of astonishment. Something happened on the way here. Oh right, where are you going? Feng Zhiyao was very curious. It's just a matter of business. You have something important to discuss with me? Li Mincan asked as she pursed her lips. Yes, can I have a word with you? Feng Zhiyao looked at the follower beside him, then smiled and asked. All right, wait a moment. This young master will be right back. Thus, Li Mincan pulled Feng Zhiyao's small hand and walked in the direction of the parasol tree forest. There's no one else here, go ahead. Li Mincan asked softly, still holding onto her hand, not willing to let go. Mincan, I dreamt of Jinran last night. Feng Zhiyao observed her expression as her spoke. You said that you dreamed of Jinran, and then? Li Mincan was very nervous, the big hand he was pulling her suddenly tightened, causing her to feel pain. Then, I saw Jinran lying in a pool of blood all over. I was really afraid that something bad would happen to Jinran. Feng Zhiyao was very worried for Li Jinran. Even dreams are the opposite, don't let your thoughts run wild. I believe that Jinran will definitely contact us. Li Mincan comforted her as he gently embraced her. Yeah, I might be worrying about something. I wonder when I'll be able to see him again. Feng Zhiyao did not notice that the bottom of her eyes were currently bearing bits and pieces of longing. But Li Mincan could tell. Yaoer, are you and Jin Ran not ordinary good friends? His tone was a bit sour, but his words were just right. What do you think? Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly, and did not take it to heart. Yaoer, you can provoke anyone you want, but you absolutely cannot provoke my little brother Jin Ran. Li Mincan reminded her in goodwill, and the smile on his face did not diminish. How is that possible? She likes you. Feng Zhiyao smiled lightly, her smile pulling at her waist and gently swaying it. Her jet-black hair was flickering with jade beads like golden hairpins and pearls. As her body swayed, it gave off rays of light as beautiful as the morning light. At this moment, the leaves of the wutong tree drifted along with the wind, as if carrying away all of their worries. The two stared at chapter other, their gazes burning. Yaoer, you are the most beautiful when you smile, and also the most moving. He had always known that he liked her. There were many times in his dreams where the woman's face under him had always been Yaoer. When he woke up, it was indeed an empty room. Mincan, I never thought you would praise me. However, I am very happy. Feng Zhiyao chaptered out her slender lotus arms and wrapped them around his neck, coquettishly smiling. Yaoer, I want to kiss you. After he finished speaking, he did not wait for Feng Zhiyao's consent as he shattered kisses that covered the sky. Feng Zhiyao was shocked by Li Mincan's sudden overbearing kiss, but that warm two-chapter caused ripples to surface in the bottom of her heart. Her head, chapter was like a chapterary blossom dancing in the sky, suddenly lost its ability to think, and she could only allow him, who was constantly tormenting the demon emperor, to ravage him gently above her chapterary lips. This kind of feeling made her want to sigh comfortably, and she couldn't help but close her eyes. When Li Mincan saw Feng Zhiyao's intoxicated expression, a deep sense of satisfaction rose up from the bottom of his heart. The tip of his tongue nimbly slid across her lips, and gently pried open the jade-like white teeth, sweeping the flower juice in Feng Zhiyao's mouth like a gale, as sweet as he could remember, more intoxicating than his imagination. This familiar feeling suddenly engulfed Feng Zhiyao as streams of air stopped in her chapterist and spread across her entire body. If it weren't for Li Mincan holding her, she probably would have collapsed to the ground long ago. Waves of heat made her feel comfortable, like clouds, and made her unable to help herself from letting out a tender moan. Li Mincan's body became hot, he wanted more, but the loathsome voice sounded from the distance. Was it his butler who asked him when he was going to leave? Mincan, there's still a lot of time to come. You should do your job first. It's time for me to ride back. Feng Zhiyao grabbed his hand, and laughed with her small red face. Yaoer, I really want to finish what happened that night with you. Yaoer, you have now been bestowed the title of a princess by the emperor, and the matter of marriage is even more irrevocable. Are you worried? Li Mincan was worried for her. Mincan, thank you for your concern. I won't be so weak. Marry a bird? If the old emperor dared to go against her wishes, she would seize his mountains and rivers and sell him to a brothel. Yaoer, if we travel together, we might only be able to send you on your way. What do you think? Li Mincan hugged her tightly. He did not want to give up, and this time, he followed his own will, not wanting to bother about his own mission. All right. Feng Zhiyao smiled. Being on the same level as a beautiful man was probably a happy life for her. So the two of them rode together, Li Mincan's subordinates following behind them. The two of them had truly parted ways on the public road. Yaoer, be careful on the road. Li Mincan's burning gaze landed on Feng Zhiyao's body, and said gently. Chapter a gentle Li Mincan caused the subordinates to gape in shock, as if they could swallow an entire egg. This was the first time they had seen a young master like this. Many times, the young master in their eyes were filled with a sinister and bloodthirsty side. Got it, then you be careful too. Feng Zhiyao looked at the sky. It was still early, why not go to a nearby restaurant to eat? Yes. Li Mincan originally wanted to send someone to protect her, but after thinking about it, if Feng Zhiyao knew about it, he was afraid that she would misunderstand the matter and watch after him. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to send an assassin to protect him from a distance, not allowing him to disturb Feng Zhiyao. This was a small town near the outskirts of Xianyang City. There were not many restaurants. Feng Zhiyao picked one that was cleaner, called Lucky's Restaurant, and walked in. After ordering a few small dishes, she waited for a long time, until the hot dishes were finally served, just that the food was definitely not as delicious as the dishes cooked by Zi Yun, but now that she was hungry, she casually ate 2 mouthfuls. Feng Zhiyao was sitting on a seat close to a window, and about 3 feet away from her, there was a black-clothed man wearing a conical bamboo hat who was looking at Feng Zhiyao with a cold gaze. Maybe his gaze was too cold, and Feng Zhiyao had noticed it, so she turned her head and saw him drinking wine with his mouth wide open, so she did not take it seriously. Who would have thought that the danger would come at this very moment? The black-clothed bamboo hat man used his drinking bowl to directly attack Feng Zhiyao's back in a straight line. Just at that moment, Feng Zhiyao slightly leaned forward and the bowl directly smashed into the wall and shattered. Fragments splashed to the ground like blossoming lotuses, carrying along with them a dark and gloomy aura. Upon seeing this, the other guests all turned to look at them. Feng Zhiyao was furious. She finally stopped to eat her meal, but there was actually a dead man who wanted to ambush her, even if it meant that she had the 6 palaces without a concubine. Fortunately, she moved quickly. "Young master, why did you plot against me?" Annoyed, she slammed the table and got up, cursing. "I was entrusted by someone to take your life." The gloomy voice of the man sounded out, causing one to feel as if they had entered an icy cavern. "Ah! Everyone, quickly flee. A bowl of crushed meat. Run! Quick, run!" Upon hearing this, the customers eating Luan chapter immediately thought of the rumors about the new top ranker on the ranking of assassins in the martial arts world, Broken Bowl, Yan Wuxia. Everyone was afraid of him now. Although everyone did not know his face, they would fall a bowl before he killed anyone, letting everyone know that he was here. His voice was mighty, making anyone who saw him feel as if they had encountered the 10 Yama kings. Thus, only Feng Zhiyao and Yan Wuxia were left in the empty restaurant. "What is it? Aren't you afraid?" Yan Wuxia's voice was extremely cold. "With someone protecting you, why should I be afraid of you?" Feng Zhiyao elegantly sat down and calmly ate the food that couldn't be considered delicious, as a faint smile appeared on her face. "Young Master Yan. This lady is someone our Soul Chapterace Manor needs to protect. I trouble you to give us the Soul Chapterace Manor's face." The Soul Chapterace Manor's left protector, Pei Kawei, did not expect himself to be protecting her from Su Chapter a far distance. That girl actually knew about it, so she had no chapterois but to show herself, and cupped her fists as she spoke. "You are the Soul Chapterace Manor's left protector, Pei Kawei. To actually be willing to follow and protect the target that I want to kill, it is truly a waste of my talent." "Ha ha ha," Yan Wuxia laughed out loud, not putting Pei Kawei in his eyes at all. "Young Master Pei, there's no need to trouble you. You should head back first. I have my own matters to settle." Feng Zhiyao was not afraid. Now that she knew light skill, she could at most run away. "Pei Kawei, I do not need your protection. Why am I standing here? Still not getting out?" Yan Wuxia sneered. This woman was the first person to face his death. It piqued his curiosity, but the other side gave him 2 mu chapter of a reward. It was the biggest reward he had ever given in his life as a killer, so he had to kill this woman, in order to obtain that huge reward. "Miss, young master ordered me to protect you, I must stay." Pei Kawei was naturally clear that this bowl of broken names was not just for show. His hands were filled with sweat as he was worried that he might not be able to defeat Yan Wuxia. "No need, if your young master asks, just say that it was my orders." Feng Zhiyao smiled and continued to calmly chapter on the red braised chapterocan wings, not at all afraid of being broken into pieces. Yes, my lady. Pei Kuei was startled for a moment, and then he agreed, since the other party had expressed his unwillingness to help, then he could not stay here and get tired of it, so he quickly flew over. All right, he's gone. Make your move. But, I want to know before I die, who exactly entrusted you with the task of killing me? Feng Zhiyao frowned. She really had a lot of enemies. She actually spent a huge sum of money to entrust Yan Wuxia to kill her. No comment, this is the rule of our industry. Yan Wuxia sneered, but he slowly wore gloves woven from golden silk, thin as a cicada's wing, and shone with a strange light under the afterglow of the setting sun. Can the rules be chapter-arranged? After eating, Feng Zhiyao took out the silk handkerchief chapter-reef that she brought along with her as she wiped the oil off the corner of her lips. Are you not afraid of death? This woman was actually so close to him. How can someone who has died once be afraid of death? Feng Zhiyao imitated him and laughed coldly. What do you mean? Today, he also felt that it was strange that he would actually spend so much chapter time with a woman before her death. You must know me better than to kill my people. Ha 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 ha. Feng Zhiyao laughed until the petals were trembling, her slender fingers moved towards his bamboo hat, and with a wave, his beautiful face was revealed. However, no matter how beautiful the man who wanted to kill her was, he wouldn't be able to arouse any of her interest. Therefore, she sneered in her heart, kill her? In your dreams. However, she had a beautiful smile on her face, young Master Yan, it's a pity that you killed me. A pity? But I still have to kill you. Die. At this moment, he had already put on his bamboo hat once again. However, his voice was getting colder and colder. Normally, whoever saw his face, no matter who it was, would have already reported to the underworld. Yan Wuxia, don't kill me. Wuxia. Wuxia. A weak and delicate voice gently floated into Yan Wuxia's ears. Suddenly, he stopped, and could only stare blankly. Wuxia. Don't kill me. I'm your sister. Wuxia. Feng Zhiyao had remembered that she knew sexual skill. Since she knew sexual skill, then wouldn't it be better for her to use the light skill to escape, as she had just learned it recently? At this moment, she was using the highest level of sexual skill for voice control. When her gentle and seductive voice entered the other party's ears, the other party's thoughts would follow her. Elder sister, Yan Wuxia actually called Feng Zhiyao big sister. The shopkeeper, who was hiding behind the counter, was scared to the point of breaking out in a cold sweat. This woman was the #1 assassin in the martial world. Ah, Wuxia. Wuxia. You are now a chapter-old with a 3-year-old IQ. In the future, you have to listen to your sister. Feng Zhiyao's lips hung with a devilish and lazy smile, as if she was an Azura from hell. Yes. I listen to my sister. If, Yan Wuxia nodded his head, his cold voice suddenly becoming chapter-oldish, causing people's hair to stand on end. Very good, I will be your big sister from now on. Big sister will let you head east, you can't head west, laughed smugly. In the future, when dealing with those enemies, she would only need to use a bowl of broken bones, since his thoughts were under her control, but his martial arts still remained, and he would still be extremely powerful. In that case, she could save a lot of effort in the future, and she would be grateful to the person who entrusted Yan Wuxia to kill her. Yes, sister. The voice sounded like a 3-year-old chapter-old, but it was a bit cold. The corner of Feng Zhiyao's mouth raised into a satisfied smile, the feeling of having a helper was really good. In a faraway corner, a woman covered in a veil shot out a gaze filled with incomparable malice. Feng Zhiyao actually had Su chapter an ability, that was hateful. Feng Zhiyao brought a bowl of broken Yan Wuxia back to Prime Minister's mansion. Feng Wucai and Feng Sais were curious as to why Feng Zhiyao was able to turn the #1 assassin in the martial arts world, Yan Wuxia, into a 3-year-old chapter-old with intelligence. How did she do it? Father, how could I have that kind of ability? When I met him, he was being hunted down by his enemy, but I don't know why he kept on pestering me to call me sister. Whi chapter was why I brought him back. I didn't know that he was actually the assassin of the martial arts world, Broken Bull. Feng Zhiyao was afraid of trouble, hence she casually made up a story. Yaoer, even though he is currently only a 3-year-old chapter-old, once he regains his intelligence, your life will be in danger. Feng Sais also disapproved of letting go of an assassin from his family. Brother Sais, are you afraid that you won't be able to defeat Yan Wuxia? Feng Zhiyao vomited blood because of Feng Sais's words. If he wanted to become an adult again, she would have to agree to it first. How could I not beat him? It's just that he's only 3 years old right now, so how can I bully the weak? Feng Sais glared at her fiercely. Did he look like someone who would take advantage of the situation and attack her? Yaoer, you better pray for your own safety. Oh right, your father has already sent out the death warriors of the Feng family to protect you. Feng Wucai's words made Feng Zhiyao break out in a cold sweat. Father, you sent the death soldiers of the Feng clan? Feng Sais was shocked. Why would his father need to use death soldiers to guard against all kinds of attacks? Yes, if I hadn't done so, you would have become someone else's uncle long ago. Humph. Feng Wucai disagreed with Feng Zhiyao's words of eating only and not taking responsibility, as he was afraid that Feng Zhiyao would repeat the same mistake as him and ruin his sect. Dad, I'm not as bad as you make me out to be. Feng Zhiyao laughed in embarrassment and stuck out her pink tongue. Alright. Go back and rest. Feng Wucai helplessly threw up his hands at Feng Zhiyao's unorthodox thought. Brother Sais, are you going to Begonia Garden to eat something delicious? Feng Zhiyao smiled as she coaxed. Why are you being so gentle and attentive to me? Could it be that you have something to request of me? Feng Sais felt that Feng Zhiyao's smile was very weird. How do you know? As Feng Zhiyao walked, she gave Yan Wuxia some candied flakes to eat. Stop beating around the bush, Feng Sais teased. Brother Sais, do you know what kind of medicine would cause you to go insane? Feng Zhiyao asked. Why do you ask if the leaves of a jinsui pine tree are eaten by a horse? Feng Sais asked. He truly felt that it was too strange. Because I wanted to go to Jiu-In Temple in the morning to pray, but who would have thought that a horse in front of my carriage would suddenly go into a frenzy? How can a good horse go mad after a short journey? Could there be someone behind all of this? Feng Sais analyzed for Feng Zhiyao as he walked. That's why I called you here. I wanted to see if there was any way to find the mastermind behind that person, causing me to almost lose my life. When Feng Zhiyao thought about that depressing matter, she wanted to pull that person out. Other than the jinsui pine tree, is there anything else? Feng Zhiyao felt that it was necessary to ask, otherwise, if she misunderstood, she would get someone to bite back on her words, and this time would be the best opportunity to get her out of Prime Minister's mansion. Could it be that Yaoer suspects the ant bai? Feng Sais remembered that when he came back from Mount Kunlun, he could already tell that the ant bai was not a friendly person. He was cunning and relied on the daughter of the noble madam in the palace to scold her often. At this moment, he had the same suspicions. He believed that Yaoer was the culprit. Yes. But there is no conclusive evidence. Feng Zhiyao was startled, then said, perhaps this is what we should do, for fear that my father will not agree. She said this to Feng Sais in a low voice. The solution is a good one. I'm just afraid that if I fail to find out who you are, I might ruin your relationship with father. After Feng Sais heard Feng Zhiyao's plan, he did not quite agree with it. Whatever, let's do this first. Since she wants my life so mu chapter, I will definitely chapter race her out of the manor. If necessary, he could also borrow a knife to kill. Alright, In any case, your brother doesn't like her either. Let's go to the Nian study. Feng Sais felt that he had to notify Father Feng, otherwise, it would not be good to hide this matter. Feng Zhiyao nodded, and then personally placed Yan Wuxia inside the begonia garden. Once again, she and Feng Sais made a trip to the Father Feng's calligraphy room. When Feng Wucai saw Feng Zhiyao and Feng Sais return after leaving, he raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why did you return?" "Father, the horse third concubine gave me had the leaves of a crazy jinsui pine tree. I didn't want to mention it at first, but when Brother Sais said it, we really hated her, so..." Feng Zhiyao lamented the fact that she did not have any evidence, it was just troublesome, even she had to take him down. So what if she had the support of Noble Madam's daughter, Mei Shi, had the backing of Alchapterami Book Corporation? "But do you have any evidence that she drugged Yaoer's horse to make it crazy?" Feng Wucai did not immediately agree. Instead, he muttered to himself for a moment, and lightly sipped his tea before asking Qian Yu about the entire text. "Father, I want to send someone to Seer Chapter Emerald Bamboo Pavilion, do you agree?" Since she had already made her decision, she would not allow herself to retreat. In fact, as a noble princess, she did not need to report this to the Father Feng, this matter has yet to be confirmed. "What if we rashly go investigate and alert the enemy?" Feng Wucai asked. "Father, you don't want little sister Yaoer to die without knowing why, right?" Feng Sais decided to use a fierce medicine and said, "Yaoer, oh Yaoer, originally, I did not advocate letting her go from Cold Fall Yard, but you, Aya." Feng Wucai said angrily, he sighed, then stood up and said, "Since that's the case, then I'll go with you guys." Feng Wucai said as he rubbed his temples. "Father, you're the best," Feng Zhiyao thought. This time she did not want to kick her out, she had to make more preparations, if not her days these days would be too boring. "Stop flattering, hurry up and ask Emerald Bamboo Pavilion." Feng Wucai put down his teacup, walked out of the study with his hands behind his back, and turned to his chapterchildren as he said this. "Yes, Father, Yaoer, why aren't you quickly following me?" Feng Sais indicated with his mouth towards Feng Zhiyao, indicating her to hurry up and not be so arrogant. "Oh, okay." Feng Zhiyao immediately chapteraced after him while smiling. Rechaptering by Wanting's Emerald Bamboo Pavilion, when Feng Wucai stated his intentions of coming here, she immediately began to weep profusely. "Old master, it really isn't me." "Woo woo." Hearing Feng Wucai's words, Bai Wanting immediately knelt down towards him and cried. "Master, third concubine has always kept to her duty and has never done anything against nature. Master, please do not wrongly accuse our third concubine." She had basically become Bai Wanting's personal lass. Seeing Bai Wanting reprimanding her, she hurriedly went forward to persuade him, without regard for her inferiority. "Slut! You don't have the right to speak here, scram." Feng Wucai frowned, he kicked Hong Mi and Hong Mi fell to the ground. Feng Wucai hated servants who overestimated their own abilities the most. So, this kick caused Hong Mi to die from the pain, blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. "Master! Do not listen to eldest miss nonsense, third concubine is innocent." Hong Mi crawled in front of Feng Wucai as she hugged Feng Wucai's boots and cried. "Hong Mi, now that the young miss is a princess, pay attention to your words. Don't commit a crime of great disrespect, you don't even know it." Feng Sais said coldly. "Father, stop wasting time with them, I want to find the jinsui pine tree as soon as possible." Feng Zhiyao's eyes glanced at Feng Sais, and very quickly, Feng Sais clapped his hands 3 times, and the servants started seer chaptering everywhere. "Master, quickly stop them, I really don't have any jinsui pine tree the princess is talking about." Bai Wanting did not expect her poison plan to be exposed so quickly, so she did not want to admit it even if she died. However, the servants had seer chaptered inside and out, but could not find any jinsui pine tree. They even seer chaptered through the box's plywood layer, but were unable to find any. Feng Zhiyao was dumbstruck. Was this really unrelated to Bai Wanting? Bai Wanting had been chaptering quietly the entire time, and now that she saw that they did not manage to find anything, she was crying like a teardrop. Furthermore, her crying sound was getting louder and louder, and Feng Zhiyao was actually panicking a little, but suddenly she calmed down. Feng Zhiyao thought about the white crystal jade hairpin that Helan Qi had given her before, that could hide poison. Then the white treasure jade hairpin that was stuck in Bai Wanting's hair seemed to be a little larger than normal, and the quality of the jade was also a little purer. Then was it possible that the Jinsui pine tree's leaf powder was hidden inside? Thinking about it this way, Feng Zhiyao rushed over to Bai Wanting and quickly took off the white treasure jade hairpin that Bai Wanting was wearing. Brother Size, open the tail of the hairpin and take a look. See if there is anything hidden that you shouldn't have. Feng Zhiyao handed the white treasure jade hairpin over to Feng Size and stepped aside. Old master, don't believe her words. I was wronged, truly wronged. Bai Wanting immediately shouted out when she saw Feng Zhiyao taking off her white treasure jade hairpin. A trace of resentment flashed across her lowered eyes. Size, what's wrong with this hairpin? Why aren't you talking? Feng Wucai asked curiously. Father, look, this is not the Jinsui pine tree's powder, but Alchaptarami sand. Feng Size looked at the powder, his eyes filled with shock. Cinnabar. Feng Wucai repeated himself, his eyes filled with disbelief. How did you get this? Feng Wucai asked. When Feng Zhiyao heard about cinnabar, she immediately thought of cinnabar that used mercury sulfide as the main ingredient. In ancient times, other than being used to write, paint, and chapter-arrange colors, the other main use of cinnabar was for medicine or to refine mercury. Because natural mercury was very rare, at that time, the main way to obtain it was to use cinnabar to refine it. What did Bai Wanting want mercury for? Could it be that she wanted to use mercury to kill her? Master, I don't know, I really don't know. Woo woo, seeing Feng Wucai's furious look, Bai Wanting immediately started crying again. Don't know. Then is the white treasure jade hairpin your jewelry? Feng Wucai glared at her sinisterly, and said angrily. This, Bai Wanting was furious. She never would have thought that the Alchaptarimical sand that she bought at Su Chapter a high price would actually be discovered by them, hence she was more or less angry in her heart. Is the white treasure jade hairpin really not from third concubine? The cinnabar in this hairpin is a strange thing. However, were they trying to use cinnabar to refine mercury? Although Bai Wanting's mother was middle-aged, she still retained her chapter arm. Her chapteriques were pink and tender, and her lips red and toothed. Wait, mercury? Cosmetics? Could it be that third concubine wanted to use mercury as her cosmetics? Or did the Green Lotus Palace use mercury as cosmetics? The palace banned mercury. Yaoer, why are you just standing there quietly? What did you think of? Feng Wucai asked. Father, a disaster is about to befall the Feng residence. Feng Zhiyao sighed. Yaoer, why do you say that? Feng Size was very nervous. What did she actually think of? Father, brother Size, third concubine, do you know the usage of cinnabar? With her hands behind her back, Feng Zhiyao looked at the pea-chapter blossoms outside the window and asked with a smile. Isn't the cinnabar used for writing and painting? Bai Wanting thought so. Women's perspective. The other use of cinnabar was to refine mercury. It was clearly prohibited for the palace to have mercury. Could it be that you want to give the mercury to Liner and have her harm others? Feng Wucai bellowed at Bai Wanting in anger. What? Cinnabar can be refined into mercury? Oh my god, how can this be? How could Bai Wanting have thought that Liner would actually make cinnabar into Su Chapter a useful use of the hero prison? Only now did she understand why that bit chapter Feng Zhiyao had said that the Feng residence was about to face a disaster. Third concubine, is noble Madame Lin involved in this matter? Feng Sai's frowned. This. My body. How would Bai Wanting dare to admit it? Seeing Feng Wucai's expression, she became even more afraid and became even more worried for Feng Jilin's safety in the palace. Night Pavilion, you should still speak the truth. If you speak of it, it might be able to save Liner's life. If you don't speak of it, you can just wait for Liner to be killed by the Emperor's 3 feet white silk. Feng Wucai shook his head and said with a sigh. Feng Jilin was his daughter long ago, that was why he said that. A 3 feet long white silk. Was it really that serious? Bai Wanting was so scared that her face turned white. Master, please save our Liner. Old master, Bai Wanting knelt on the ground and kowtowed fiercely towards Feng Wucai. Third concubine, how long have you been involved in this matter? Hearing her words, Feng Zhiyao felt her scalp go numb. Bai Wanting was so frightened that she could not speak properly, and Feng Zhiyao had a rough idea of what was going on, so she must have participated in it a lot. Father, third concubine, last time I saw Liner's skin snow, lips red and teeth white. I'm afraid that if a person consumed an excessive amount of mercury, they would have fair skin and rosy lips. This is a sign of poisoning. If little sister Liner consumed mercury, the consequences would be unimaginable. Feng Zhiyao said as she looked at Bai Wanting, deep in thought. Night Pavilion, stop supplying Liner with cinnabar as soon as possible. Otherwise, your daughter will be killed by the ignorant you. Feng Wucai's anger ignited, and he roared at Bai Wanting. Father, how about this, we need to quickly get rid of this cinnabar. If the Emperor finds out, the life of our Prime Minister's mansion will be in great danger. S brain was still working, he thought immediately. How mu chapter cinnabar is there? Feng Wucai asked angrily. It's all buried under that pomegranate bonsai. Bai Wanting stammered as she pointed in the direction of the pomegranate. Her eyes were filled with tears and her heart was burning with anxiety. She was worried about Feng Jilin's health. Princess, I beg of you, please head to the palace tomorrow to meet Liner. Then, don't take the mercury anymore, your life is more important. Bai Wanting recalled that Feng Zhiyao was now a princess and that she could enter and leave the palace, so she immediately kowtowed to Feng Zhiyao and wailed. Originally, she wanted to ask the old master to enter the palace to advise Liner, but the old master was a man, so it was inconvenient for them to enter and leave the harem. Third concubine, it's not that I'm not willing to help you, but that I went to see her. She might not agree to this matter and instead hated me for it. Feng Zhiyao did not want to wade through this muddy water, so she refused awkwardly. Princess, I am begging you, what happened before was my fault, please forgive me, please do not remember this lowly person, the Prime Minister can hold a boat in his stoma chapter, please go and advise Liner tomorrow, okay? Master, Liner is not only my daughter, she is also your daughter. Old master, seeing that Feng Zhiyao was in a difficult situation, Bai Wanting pulled Feng Wucai's sleeves and begged. Fine. Feng Wucai thought for the sake of the Feng family, and nodded his head, then turned to Feng Zhiyao and said, Yaoer, go and advise her, and say that it is her parents' idea. If she still does not listen, then let her handle this matter, then I will pretend that I do not have this daughter of mine. Master, Liner is still young, you can't ignore her. Woo, seeing that Feng Wucai was about to give up on Feng Jilin, Bai Wanting immediately shouted with all her might. Father, I understand. I will go to the palace to see her tomorrow. That's right, third concubine, little sister Liner is willing to listen, but I don't have a 100% chance of success. Feng Zhiyao sighed, and said the first few unsightly words. Thank you, princess. Bai Wanting immediately expressed her thanks. Her face was still pale and her heart was in turmoil. Night Pavilion, you should get some rest early. Sighs, Yaoer, let's go to the city to read the full text of the Absolute Dragon. Feng Wucai glanced at Bai Wanting and flicked his sleeves and left. After exiting Bai Wanting's emerald bamboo pavilion, Feng Wucai asked Feng Zhiyao, Yaoer, about the matter of the horse being dismounted with the jasper grass, do you want to report it to the authorities for investigation? Dad, there's no need to go through all this trouble. I'm still fine, how about this for now? I can make him relax his guard and wait for him to attack again. Anyway, I won't let him go. Feng Zhiyao was also regretful that it was not actually ordered by the Aunt Bai. But in that case, that man definitely wanted to use him to kill someone. Whi chapter meant, that man did not want to kill him, but wanted to kill Aunt Bai. Alright, since you understand this, then I won't say any more. Alright, I'll send you to the entrance of Begonia Garden, you should go in and rest as soon as possible, and I'll help you rest when you go back. Size, you're also one man, you shouldn't be alone with Yaoer at this time, otherwise it would affect Yaoer's good name. Feng Wucai's face was solemn. Father, brother Size, I will be going to bed. Good night. Feng Zhiyao smiled at them, then turned and walked into the Begonia Garden. Seeing that Yaoer had entered the Begonia Garden, Feng Size praised Feng Zhilin, Father, this girl's temperament is getting better and better, and she is smarter than when she was young. If I didn't make a mistake in throwing the ball, poor Yaoer would have married a pockmarked beggar with Su-chapter terrible conditions. Father was truly worried that Yaoer would marry him and live her life of eating pickled vegetables every day. When Feng Wucai thought about how the pockmarked beggar received Feng Zhiyao's embroidered ball, his expression turned ugly. Who told the pockmarked beggar to have no products? No house, no car, no job. Of course, I don't know if that pockmarked beggar ever joined the gang. Father? That pockmarked beggar doesn't seem to be as bad as you said, right? When Feng Size heard Father Feng's words, the corner of his mouth immediately twitch-chaptered, he sweated profusely. Was he really that bad? And eating pickled vegetables every day? He didn't expect his father to judge people by their appearances. Dad, isn't your words too absolute? You can't judge a book by its cover, you can't judge a book by its cover. Maybe they have decent work to do. Feng Size retorted in displeasure. You brat, why would you refute me for that pockmarked beggar? Could it be that that pockmarked beggar gave you quite a bit of benefits? It's even a decent job. Ha, you already said it might be so, then even you aren't sure. If you are unsure, don't speak carelessly. When Feng Wucai thought about marrying Su-chapter, a lowly person, to the legitimate daughter that he was so proud of, his expression immediately turned bad. This time around, he was practically glaring at Feng Size as he spoke. Father, do you need to be so fierce? I did not say that I would definitely marry Yaoer to that pockmarked beggar. Feng Size muttered. Size, I want to see in detail how you look like. You look like a pock-faced beggar. Oh yes, where did you die when Yaoer threw the ball? Why didn't I see you at the scene? Tell me, where did you go? Feng Wucai was not an idiot. When he thought about it carefully, he felt that it was very strange. When he linked the things that had happened before and after with them, he felt that Feng Size was very Mu-chapter a suspect. Father, what nonsense are you spouting? Was it easy for me to be roused from bed early that morning by the housekeeper? Afterwards, when Yaoer went to throw the ball, I went back to Jusong Hall to sleep. There should be many people who can prove that I really slept at Jusong Hall that day. Feng Size was already prepared to be questioned by Feng Wucai. Is that so? It was very obvious that Feng Wucai did not believe his words. She coldly glanced at him for a moment, then turned and left, leaving him gasping for breath, and thought to herself, Father Feng really does have a pair of sharp eyes. Just as Feng Size was about to leave, he took a careful look at the surroundings of the Begonia Garden and was shocked. God, was the Father Feng trying to protect Yaoer tightly? Father, he's serious. They really used the death soldiers of the Feng clan. He thought he was only scaring Yaoer. Feng Size shook his head, and in the next second, he agreed that they should do the same, because Yaoer was a girl who was not at ease. He did not forget that Su Mayan was trying to bully Yaoer by kissing him, so, putting these death soldiers here, it was better to scare the fly men that were coveting Yaoer than the yang devouring divine record. When Feng Zhiyao returned to the begonia garden, she immediately took a bath. After the comfortable bath, she called Yan Wuxia over. "Princess, who is he? Why did this servant ask him several times? He still hasn't spoken to this servant. What's going on?" Ziyun was very curious as to how Feng Zhiyao managed to pray for her good fortune once, and how she managed to bring back a beautiful guy. It was just that although this pretty boy had killing intent, his intelligence was just like a 3-year-old chapterild's. For a moment, she was unable to make heads or tails of it. Why did it become like this? Ziyun, he's the top ranker in the martial arts world, bowl of broken, Yan Wuxia. Feng Zhiyao explained with a smile. Yan Wuxia? It can't be. Why does he look so mu-chapter like a 3-year-old chapterild? Ziyun could not believe it, so she asked. It's true. He only listens to me now. Ha, alright, he's hungry too. Make some midnight snacks for him. Feng Zhiyao smiled and instructed, he likes to eat beef, you can braise him with red. Feng Zhiyao recalled the moment she saw Yan Wuxia at the Lucky Inn, and noticed that he only used his empty wine bowls to smash it, while eating beef at the same time. Hence, she thought that Yan Wuxia liked to eat beef already. Alright. This servant then will immediately go to the Kitchapteran. Ziyun smiled and nodded, then turned and left. Yan Wuxia, tomorrow you will monitor the little girl who spoke earlier here. Take a good look at the details of where she went and the person she met, and then report it to me at night. Feng Zhiyao instructed with a face full of smiles. Elder sister, Wuxia understands. Yan Wuxia replied, his voice sounded a little me-chapteranical. After eating midnight snack, Feng Zhiyao arranged for Yan Wuxia to enter one of the rooms in Begonia Garden that was empty, and then went back to her own room to sleep. The next day, on a sunny morning, she rode the magnificent carriage to the palace. She went alone, and did not bring Ziyun and Yan Wuxia along. The sky was filled with a warm color as the morning sun rose. White clouds drifted across the sky, creating an endless sea of clouds. The palace walls that were rolling like clouds, layers upon layers of tiled eaves, and exquisite pavilions and pavilions, the mountain rocks were arranged in an orderly manner, and there were countless strange flowers and herbs. Green Lotus Palace, reporting to Master, Princess Lianyan wishes to meet you. A blue-clothed servant reported to Feng Zhilin. Princess Lianyan? She? What did she come to my Green Lotus Palace for? Feng Zhilin asked while rubbing a fresh red QI pill on her sharp fingernail. Is it just a matter of seeing or not? The servant asked cautiously. Let her in. I would like to see if she came here to die today. Humph. Feng Zhilin laughed coldly. Yes, your servant will go and summon her here. The blue-clothed servant took a light breath. This noble Madame Lin was the most difficult person in the entire palace to serve. Feng Zhiyao walked in dressed in her beautiful palace attire. Now that she was a princess, she no longer needed to bow to the noble Madame Lin like she did before, she only needed to pay her respects. Feng Zhiyao thought that it was really funny, it really had the smell of a chapter opera. Feng Zhilin was her biological sister, and now she was the emperor's wife. And she, Feng Zhiyao, became the emperor's foster daughter. This sister had suddenly turned into a comical relationship between mother and daughter, making her feel that it was too outrageous. However, this was an ancient relationship, so there was no need to think about it. Why did you come to the Green Lotus Palace to see me? Feng Zhilin was as leisurely as ever as she smeared the bright red cheesy pill on her forehead. She didn't even raise her head as she asked indifferently with an extremely indifferent tone. Feng Zhiyao took this opportunity to carefully size Feng Zhilin up. She wore a pink embroidered crabapple dress with a pearl-white lake crepe skirt. A pair of pear-shaped dimples emerged on her white jade face. Whi chapter caused her chapteriques to become as moist as a newly bloomed flower. A pair of eyes that were filled with longing for life. Those seductive eyes were black and white, rippling with an enchapterenting chapter arm. The pink silk ribbon was tied up, and the long black hair that was originally elegant emitted a fairy-like aura. Long hair down to the waist, forehead and temples with a white and pink inlaid fan with tasseled beaded chapterine. There was a milky white jade bracelet on her wrist, and the warm white jade was exuding a kind of unspeakable radiance. It was a perfect matte chapter to her delicate pink outfit, and around her neck was a silver pearl necklace, faintly revealing a purplish, resplendent luster. You're getting more and more beautiful. Your skin is really like snow, and your lips are red and teeth white. Feng Zhiyao calmly looked at her, and after she finished speaking, Feng Zhiyao carefully observed her expression. But she only saw Feng Zhilin's fingers tremble slightly, and then she coldly snorted, "This is really too rare, you actually want to praise me? Could it be that the sun has risen from the west today? Of course it's praise. Please tell your men to go down, and I will have to say these words to you alone. Of course, I was asked by others to do so and your mother herself begged me to leave, if not I would not come to your Green Lotus Palace." Feng Zhiyao played with her fingers gracefully as he yawned lazily. Feng Zhilin then raised her head and looked at Feng Zhiyao carefully, and thought, why would her mother ask Feng Zhiyao for? Why can only be said in isolation? Could it be a trap? Why is noble Madame Lin afraid of me? Hee hee. After all, you are my sister. Besides, you are the emperor. Ugh. So he is royal father's noble Madame Lin. No matter how I think about it, isn't there a saying, to hit a dog still requires a look at the master? Feng Zhiyao's laugh was extremely moving, but these words nearly made Feng Zhilin so angry that she almost died. However, Feng Zhilin had been immersed in the large vat in the palace for so long, she still had some guts. Thus, she smiled lightly, "Why are you afraid of Princess Lianyan?" The owner hadn't barked yet, so how could the dog bark first? Hee hee, a burst of laughter resounded through the sky. She had some experience fighting with imperial concubine Duan, how could she be at a disadvantage? Alright, you can all go now. I want to reminisce with Princess Lianyan and the two sisters. Feng Zhilin ordered someone to move the bright juice away as she smiled chapter-armingly. Today, you, Feng Zhiyao, have taken the initiative to deliver yourself to my doorstep. How could she possibly let go of Su chapter, a rare opportunity? Master. Zhu'er was a little worried that Feng Zhilin would be bullied, hence she was worried. Zhu'er, go down. Feng Zhilin gently waved her hand at Zhu'er. She indicated for her to leave. Then, she raised her eyebrows and looked at Feng Zhiyao. All right. All of them retreated. What exactly do you want to say to me? Feng Zhilin rolled her eyes at Feng Zhiyao, thinking, why isn't Feng Zhiyao dead yet? Isn't she suffering from an evil disease? Why was her face so red? Why do you have skin against snow? Why are your lips red and your teeth white? Feng Zhiyao walked closer to her step by step, and asked with a cold voice. Whether or not she knew that if she used this on her own, it would implicate her family, so she didn't mind dying, but if she let Father Feng die with her, she would want to scold her. What? Why can't I understand what you're saying? Feng Zhilin chapteros to play dumb. Are you sure you don't understand? Or do you not have the guts to admit it? Feng Zhiyao sighed, if she really wanted to die, no one would be able to stop her. I don't know what you're trying to say. Feng Zhilin turned her back to Feng Zhiyao and hugged a white pet cat in her arms. What do I want to say? You don't understand. Do you know that you are currently taking the poison, and are slowly dying? It doesn't matter if you die, but don't drag our family to their deaths. Feng Zhiyao could not hold it in and shouted at Feng Zhilin. You want your mother to bring cinnabar for you? The cinnabar can be refined into mercury, and the mercury can be mixed with rouge and powder to make one's lips, teeth, and skin white as snow. Looking at your current appearance, I'm afraid you're not far away from death. Do you really have a brain? Feng Zhiyao was so angry that she wanted to beat her up, but she was now the emperor's concubine, so what could she do to her? Feng Zhiyao, you don't need to worry about my matters. Get out of here. Men, chapter ace her out. Don't let her bark here. Feng Zhilin scolded angrily. Do you think I would advise you? Father loves you dearly, otherwise, I would not have come to your Green Lotus Palace. Humph. Do it yourself. I'm leaving. Feng Zhiyao was too lazy to stay, it was too tiring to talk to Su chapter a person, she might as well go to the imperial garden to have a look at the flowers and beautiful herbs. And I'll tell you, you're the one barking. Bye-bye. Feng Zhiyao proudly saw Feng Zhilin's small face darken, so she quickly left the Green Lotus Palace. Under the bright sunlight, the misty Ningji Lake looked like a golden gauze, with dense water vapor lingering around them. In the middle of the lake, there were green lotus leaves floating, and snow-white lotuses dotted the surface of the lake with green. A warm breeze blew, and the white lotuses danced gracefully, as if there was a fairy dancing in the air. On the shore, the fragrance of pink chapterary blossoms bloomed. The falling petals were like heavenly beauties scattering flowers, beautiful and romantic, that landed on the bluestone vine. The faint fragrance wafted into the air, and the pinkish-purple flowers were faintly discernible. As Feng Zhiyao walked, she was admiring the beautiful scenery of the Ningji Lake. Feng Zhiyao. A clear voice came from afar, causing Feng Zhiyao to turn around to take a look. Murong Chapterong. Seeing that it was Murong Chapterong, Feng Zhiyao remembered that he had saved her before, and smiled as he greeted her. How are you here? This time, he recognized her. Feng Zhiyao smiled slightly. Green Lotus Palace is my concubine's sister, I just came out from her place, what about you? Why aren't you with the crown prince? I told him to wait for him here. Murong Chapterong did not speak next, only his gaze fell on the surface of the lake. Whether it was looking at the lotus or the rippling water, he did not look at Feng Zhiyao. Whi chapter made Feng Zhiyao frown helplessly. Murong Chapterong. She wanted to chapterat with more beauties, who told Feng Size to make him sound so chapteralenging. 1, 2, 3 times, Murong Chapterong still did not react. Why did you call me? Murong Chapterong asked. His gaze landed on Feng Zhiyao's body, only to see that the luxurious clothing on her body did not shine as brightly as her own, as an unnoticeable enticement and chapter arm flowed through her black eyes, the darkness within them constantly stopping, and she was so beautiful that she was close to becoming a demon. The delicate willow leaf eyebrow is curved, natural, and exists in the angle of a smile. Her skin was white and exquisite, but it was suffused with a jade-like glow. It seemed to be like the snow in winter. It was so bright and clean. She was the most exotic woman in the world. She had the colors of a bewitched chaptering monarch chapter, a clear, snow-white face, and a mixture of confusion and confusion. He knew that she was beautiful, but she was looking at him with Su chapter of fiery and stinging gaze. He really couldn't get used to it. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.